This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everybody. Welcome on board. Welcome on board. They're very relaxed, these elephants. They've walked right up to us, everybody. We've been waiting for them. How incredible is this? We've just found some shade. It's always so thrilling to start a show with elephants just arriving on the scene like that. Not only myself out, I've got Tristan out as well. JP, and JP, Pete, and Phinda and JP and Prrivate. And well, I want to welcome you on board this glorious afternoon on your live African safari. Vehicle, everybody. My name is Steve and I'm joined by Bo on camera, and look at this. Isn't this just blessed? This afternoon, this herd of elephants, we're watching them from a distance, and we were trying to get some good views. We moved twice already, and then right there as we opened, they came right up to us. Hi everybody, it's welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where it is marula season. It is 31 degrees Celsius, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you have any questions and comments, you are most welcome to send them through to us. It's a big fellow right next to us over here. Hello, big fellow. To using the hashtag WildEarth, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. Very big fellow. Going to eat a marula branch. Or if you're under 18, please get your parents or guardians to send through your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. If you haven't yet, please go to the website and register on the WildEarth website, and go over to the live safari page where you can submit your questions there. Now I'm going to move up a little bit because the herd of elephants has moved over to another marula tree. This fellow was giving them a bit of a hard time before, but they were quite enjoying his presence because he's got the power. He headbutted the tree earlier, and they were like, "Yay, we're quickly eating." But that herd walked right up to us, and I don't know if you saw it. I wasn't watching the screen at that time. I was so engrossed with the elephants around us. The littlest baby, just over there. The littlest baby over there with Mama. So my plan this afternoon was just to go check all the watering holes, and then this happened. So there's traffic in this afternoon. The sun is absolutely scorching today. There's still not going to be any off-road driving, but I'm going to be moving from shady spot to shady spot so as to be able to spend time with whatever animals we find. We will be sort of just poking our nose off the road slightly. Not off-roading, it's just poking. There we go. And what I think we're going to do... Oh, look at this. Look at them here. They found a puddle in the middle. So this is in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and there's a huge puddle of water there. So no off-roading, everybody, because... Oh, there we go. The young boys have decided they're going to come ruin it for everybody. So there's puddles of water in the middle of open areas, so you can imagine going off-roading right now. Well, I've already got stuck a few times this week. Let's not do that again. Hey, Paul, you wouldn't mind being stuck with elephants though, would you? Hey, lions, a different story, definitely. Look at that. So my plan was to go around watering holes, and it looks like we found our first one. Right here. So that could have started off as a simple little wildebeest rubbing or a little bit of an elephant digging, and because the amount of rainfall we've had, which has been enormous, it would accumulate if the soil is the right consistency. Oh, splendid. They started the morning show right here. They started the afternoon show right here as well. You can't script this sort of thing, everybody. You cannot script it. I can smell lion poo. Do you smell that, Paul? We must be very careful not to get any of it on our wheel. I think we might have lost communications. We're not hearing anything in my earpiece. Maybe everybody's so blown away with these views that there's no need to talk. I wonder. Oh, there we go. A Smuffin indeed, a puddle party of elephants. Blessings to be able to find them. Elephants are the best because they're always busy. They're always going to be doing something. So, I mean, we might even try to stay with this herd for a little while. Go from shade spot to shade spot. I almost feel like I could do a little bit of a wallow. We're going to get you into the mud, Paul, today. Cover you in a bit of mud. Cool you down. No? It doesn't seem too keen to try all these things, everybody. I don't know why. So they cover themselves. Obviously, the water cools them down. If they can cover themselves with mud, it will cool them down for even longer. So that was initially, I think, quite decent water for drinking. But now it's just turned into mud. And what the elephants will do is, because water's accumulated there, they will be digging and they'll be creating more mud, which means they'll be creating more erosion, which is the movement of sediment from one place to another, and that little depression will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually over time you'll find there'll be a decent sized pan over here that's seasonally active. Obviously relies on rainfall to fill it up. Ephemeral rain, or ephemeral meaning seasonal. The breeding herd with the young males is very active, doing their thing. Yes, indeed. And as those early start to move off, you'll see our big boy who's decided that he's so big he wants to come and say, what's going on over here? He's not in must. He's not in must at all, but he gave us a head shake to say, hey, you guys. But he's very relaxed. You see how slowly they move. He's just casually walking around. He's in no rush to be anywhere. No rush at all, but he definitely is interested in some of the females, but he's not in must at the moment. Okay, so we've been having some wonderful weather today. Let's go and have a look at how it's planning out. It seems partly cloudy and bright sunshine is about right for this area. It is scorching. We're at the Milawati at a crossroad conundrum as to whether we cross or don't we cross. Do we cross? Don't we cross? I mean, it's possible. I think we could probably get across, but do I want to be stuck? Probably not. Anyway, my name is Tristan on camera. I've got Theo this afternoon, and I was going to attempt this, but I think I'm going to think better of it. I don't feel like asking Steve to pull me out. Actually, before I go, though, there's some Whirlygig beetles that are swimming on my right-hand side. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see them very well. They're just in this little channel here. We actually don't see them all that often. Whirlygig beetles are these little beetles. Come down a little bit. There, just somewhere there we go. They have this little shimmer. So sometimes you'll go towards a
body of water, and you'll see these little shimmers on the surface, and it's these guys. They can often be in really big groups together, but they're the most fascinating little creature, these, because these guys are able to do a whole bunch of things that many insects can't. They're like little super insects. They are able to swim, they're able to fly, they're able to look above the surface of water and below the surface of the water. They're able to dive if they need to, and they can do all kinds of maneuvers in order to evade predators, which amazes me. There's very few insects that can do both, that can swim and fly, and these guys are one of them. Now, the shimmering that you're seeing is from the metallic coloration on their body. So as they turn, they catch the light, and causes this kind of shimmering pattern to be visible. Where the name Whirlygig beetle comes from is probably due to the erratic movements, but honestly, that would be just a guess. Very cool to see them. I haven't seen them in a while. The last time I saw them was at Twin Dams, but they're obviously enjoying a running Mulawati. Not that they're going to have it for much longer, I'm afraid. The Mulawati is dropping by the minute. It's already, again, half of what it was this morning. Are fish chasing them? Look, fish are trying to hunt them. You see that? Look. Did you get that? That is amazing. I wonder what kind of fish it is. Maybe a little type of bream. We get a whole bunch of different breams in this area. But where they would have come from for this particular dam, I don't know. But that one's fine, because that one is in a very thin channel. It's on the right-hand side of that channel. You see this little sandbank. This channel here is deep. You see there, that little kind of rise, if you want to call it, is an insect coming up every now and then. But there was a fish chasing one of those little Whirlygig beetles. That's very, very cool. Let's see if it happens again. I don't see them anymore. But it's shallow enough that when they're chasing, they're actually causing a ripple and even coming towards the surface of the water. It looked like a bream species. I would imagine that's what it is. They often are in these little rivers when they flood. But like I say, I'm unsure of where it came from. What must have happened with some of these fish is that they would have come from Chitwa Dam. I know it sounds ridiculous, but Chitwa Dam overflows into the Mulawati at Little Gowrie, and then from Little Gowrie they can swim all the way upstream to where we are here. Amazing, isn't it, to think that this little fish could have come from that dam and has traveled all the way up to where we are now. And it's unfortunate because they're going to eventually get picked off pretty quickly, because what's going to happen soon is the flows are going to stop and you're going to get pools, and those pools are going to be kind of segregated by sandbanks, and then the herons and kingfishers and various other things come in and they just absolutely hammer everything that is here. Well, that was cool. I don't see any sign of any other beetles sorry, that's my head, in that little channel, so I don't think we're going to see those fish hunting too much more. If there was more of them, I think we could have sat for a little bit longer. Wallowing coming down. Wait, hang on a second. Seems like there's one that's going crazy on the surface of the water. Let's see if it attracts any attention. So you can see that little whirligig motion that they have where they go in these circles. Dylan, yes, this is normally a dry riverbed, so there is a lot of water still after the rainstorm. The roads are all covered in water. Many of the roads aren't even open yet. We've been trying to explore roads and see what's going on as the day, or as the kind of sun was shining yesterday afternoon and this morning, but there are still some that are going to be a long time till they're really properly drivable. When you've got the amount of rain that we had on top of what we had before, everything is just completely saturated. See how that one went underwater? That's cool. Let's see if this fish comes back and tries to chase them, now that they're kind of in that deeper channel. No, not chasing them anymore. All right, cool. But yeah, a lot of water and still more rain to take place this summer. It's going to be a very wet summer. It's going to be a tough summer from a kind of animal viewing point of view, it's not going to be easy for the next few months. The grass is going to be supremely long. Area is very wet that inhibits the ability to off-road. So, these kind of things are all going to contribute to making it a little tougher out here. That's okay, though. We still have a fairly good amount of animals around, particularly elephants, and it sounds like Steve is still with his.
Welcome back, everyone. We're trying to sneak up on these elephants again. But it's imperative that we find shade. It's melting conditions out here today. Oh, hello, beautiful. There's a nice patch of shade for us and Paul. Are you ready? Yes, under the shade of the leadwood tree. Oh, she's so beautiful. Can you get in on her eye for me and Paul? Right in on the eye. I wanted to show everybody what I mean about the softness of eyes. And she walked right up to us before at the start of show. And she lifted her trunk, and her eyes were very soft. You see how they're semi-closed, they're barely open. That is from the tear duct, that white stuff. They don't have the same necessary ability to clean the eyes as we do, so they get this little white sort of smear. And see, she's getting a bit annoyed because there's this young bull who's just pushed in, and he thinks, oh, she must have some marulas. So you see, a young bull of that age is very cheeky. So they start getting pushed away. They start getting cheeky like that. But he's still allowed in the herd. He's still being tolerated. And there's Mama at the back there with the littlest one. The back left. There's the little Mama there. You can probably hear a bird in the background. There's a nediki. Chip, 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 chip. One of the little LBJs we get. Are you ready for Mama and Baba? There's Baba. Oh, hello. Still trying to figure out. You can see how all the other elephants, their ears are, it's almost like an automatic flap. Whereas that baby one is having to really concentrate. You can almost see the brow, the concentration and trying to get the ears to move. Oh, I'm so hot. Let me just flap my ears. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. Simple. What a way to start the afternoon. Let's move up to our next little patch of shade. It's going to be an afternoon of shade, everybody. Good guiding ethics. I'll talk a little bit about guiding as well today, if everybody's interested. I know we've had some questions of late. Just now asked, what's the hardest thing about becoming a guide? And look at this young bull. He is really giving her a hard time. Leave her alone. Trying to hit her with his trunk. You're just being cheeky, aren't you? So from a guiding point of view, when you're doing your assessment on a day like this, unless you get stuck in an elephant roadblock like this and you can't move into the shade, which is what we can't do right now, you have to always try and stop in the shade as a guide, unless it's early morning. There's no need to go from shade to shade or if it's overcast. But whenever possible, you're going to be stopping to talk to your guests about elephants or a plant or something that you can quite easily do on the dashboard. You have the potential to choose where you're going to stop. You have the potential to manipulate and move around. Some guides get quite nervous and they just feel that they need to stop and start talking right now, and then they find, can we get this little one? He's found something to play with. Oh, and they find they get a bit nervous and they feel like they just need to talk now. The little one's going to come investigate from the left. Here comes the little one. Going to enter the road now. Are you ready? Come on, little one. Show us how big you are. Oh, hello. I want to play with the stick too. How does it work? What are the rules of this game? Oh, pick it up. Now, can I use my foot? I don't quite know how to use this long thing yet. Really don't quite know how to use it yet. The ears are... To use the trunk and the ears at the same time, that's way too much concentration, isn't it? Oh, there we go. The stick's gone over. And the little one seems to have lost it. Where did the stick go? Where's it gone? Young elephants, when they obviously they've got the diet of milk with mum, so they've got a lot more time to play and investigate. This little one's got a lot of time to figure out what's going on. Here we go, a bit to the right. Sorry, boy, the guy's playing with that stick properly. Now, you won't find many other animals that physically play with things just for the sake of playing with it. Just for the sake. Let me just pick up the stick and throw it around. Absolutely no reasoning. Just because I can. And as with human babies will come straight over and go, what's that you're playing with? I want to play with it too. Very good strengthening of the trunk. Very good hand-eye coordination, or trunk-eye coordination in this case. Now the baby's turn. You see the difference in the ears. The one on the right has got some decent control. The one on the left, just flappity-flap. Was an elephant screaming in the distance. Now, I would love you to all send through a one-word tweet about how does it make you feel seeing little elephants like this. #WildEarth. How does it make you feel having these little fellows in your presence? He's got it. Oh. Come on, let me try. I want to get it. There we go. Now, how do I pick it up again? Can I use my foot? It's frustrating. Frustrating. He's going to go back to mum. That wasn't so much fun. As much fun as he thought it would be. He'll learn. Plenty of time to practice while mum is eating. Eating, eating, eating. Darcy Ann says joyous. Well, that is very, very cool. I think it's joyous. I don't know where to look at a ball. There's so much happening. There's a stick wielder, there's a baby, and there's two feeding. Well, everybody's feeding. Fortunate, Sir 50? Yes, I think we are very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. I think blessed is my word, which is quite in line with fortunate. And Paul, what about you, brother? Have a one word? Blessed as well, hey? Truly blessed. The elephant energy is strong today. Yep, I'm going to stick the stick in my mouth. I wonder if anyone told this little one that you shouldn't play with your food. Elephant energy is very strong. I haven't seen any Ellies myself, so I wouldn't know, but we'll take Steve's word for it. Just going to quickly pull up here towards Twin Dams and just have a little scout around. I'd already see a monitor lizard. Is it a monitor lizard or is it a little crocodile? I don't know. Let's have a look quickly. Swimming about. Oh, hello, piglets. Hey, guys. Sorry. Don't run away, though. They're running towards the water buck. Are they actually going to stay? Are we going to get a view of little piglets? This is, how many sets now? Fourth set of warthogs we've seen this afternoon. Most of them have just disappeared, but this female is being rather obliging, letting us have a look at her little ones. We saw the ones we had yesterday afternoon already, which is the two females mixed with the three little ones. This is a female with three little ones on her own, and then there was a group of what looked like two males as well. I think everyone is enjoying the amount of rain that they've had and the fact that they can plonk their bottoms into mud all over the place and have the best wallows wherever they want to go. The only problem is that they are in the shade and we are in the sun,
And so now it feels like I need to go and wallow because I'm hot. It's very, very warm out this afternoon. Talking about that thing that was swimming at Twin Dams, let me just double check it. No, it is a monitor lizard. It's not a crocodile. So we're all good. No one panic. Everything is okay. We just have a monitor lizard, which is to be expected in this area. You can see the waterbuck in the background behind the warthogs, watching closely. I'm sure they kind of what is coming down the road, and once they figure out it's a warthog, they'll be pretty happy just to chill and take it easy again and not stress too much. So many animals, even little baby waterbuck in the background. Baby waterbucks are one of the most cutest things that one could ever see. They are fluffy and they're this kind of little caramel color, super cute. All right, well, we'll have a little look around here, see what else we can find. Maybe there'll be something interesting hidden in the reeds.
Good afternoon and welcome to andBeyond Phinda. We had a herd of buffalo and they seem to have just run off. Something's made them a bit skittish and they've just run off straight into this bush behind us, and we've completely lost visual. But my name's Pete, and behind the camera this afternoon we have Glenn. We're in a really beautiful area this afternoon, and we're going to be looking for herds of buffalo, as well as rhino. There are a lot of white and black rhino in this area. There are a lot of thickets around, so a really good area for those animals. A lot of other grazers around. Zebra, we actually just saw some around the corner, so maybe we'll go and have a look at those a little bit later on. I'm not too sure what has spooked these buffalo though. Quite interesting. We had a scan because we also saw some zebra running away. It could definitely just be the wind, and they may have picked up on the scent of something that's a little bit older. There are a lot of large marulas around here where certain cats would scent mark up against, and often if the wind just blows in the wrong direction, the buffalo or the zebra might just get a little bit spooked by that scent. It's very open here as well, and you can imagine the scent gets carried a lot longer and a lot further in these open areas. There, the buffalo, you can just see they've come out on the hill just on the other side, and they're actually still running. I don't know if you can see there, Glenn, on the left. But we're going to send you off to Steve, who's got some elephants, and we'll see if we can catch up with these buffalo again.
Well done, Pete. Buffalo. We got some elephants. Still, look at that little one. Oh, he's going to come. Look, you can see the interest. He's trying to think, okay, what's my older cousin doing over there? He's going to walk over here. This is one of my favorite things to do, everybody, is to be up close and personal with the herd. That's completely relaxed, and their little youngsters come and investigate what's going on. That little youngster wanted to come, but it's thought about it. Thought, hang on, Mum's moving away. Let me go back. Go hide in the shade of this tree. Lovely little thicket. It's actually her sibling, the other one. They've hidden themselves in the thickets, everybody, but aren't we blessed to spend time with elephants like this? So the females we saw earlier, they've gone back to that little pan in the open area over there. They've come and done a whole big loop. She's going to go all the way back, either to that marula tree or to the pan system where we were earlier. Let's quickly send you over to Tristan.
How cool is this? There's a Gabba goshawk that is hunting the weaver chicks, and it's actually pulling the whole nest apart. I haven't seen them do this in years, but you see what it's doing? It's burrowing through the top of the nest, and you see how it's targeting the drier nest, and watch how the birds are trying to dive bomb it to dissuade it from doing anything. I thought there was something wrong, because when we were kind of sitting here, there was no sound coming from the tree. And normally there's a hive of activity, lots going on. So there had to be something disturbing them. And you can see how all the weavers are cooperatively working. It's not just one pair that's trying to chase them from that nest. There's multiple different birds that are coming in. Shame, guys. I wonder if there are chicks in there. But you see how it's using its beak to tear out the top, because it knows it can't reach from underneath, given the way that the nest is built. It can't hang like a African harrier hawk and stick its feet up into nests. And so what it's got to do is it's got to sit on top. There we go. Look, look, look. There, it's got him. Oh, no. Shame, man. There went a chick, unfortunately. That's that, I'm afraid. And that won't be the last one that this Gaba goshawk is going to come and get. But that is absolutely fascinating behavior. Listen to the commotion. Oh, shame. The one has gone into the nest that was just raided now. Maybe there's still one there. It's possible, but... Oh, that's horrible. I mean, it's amazing in its own right, because behaviorally speaking, that's a very, very rare thing to see. You don't see this kind of thing often. You've got to spend a lot of time, and, we've just caught it at the right moment. So from that point of view, it's amazing, but sad that that poor little chick was taken, and now there's an adult that's gone in there to see where its chicks are. And if there was only one, well, it's going to find that there's none left, which is an absolute shame. The other problem is it's now got to try and fix that hole if there is another one. And who knows, maybe this goshawk is going to come back again. I see all the birds have just flown away. Let's just sit here for a little bit, because that's not a very big meal. Once that goshawk has eaten it, it might decide to come back here and utilize this food source again. Now that it knows that it can get to chicks that way, it's most definitely going to do this regularly. It's not going to, kind of forget about this. And it also knows that in terms of energy-wise, this is a much easier hunt than having to go after a bird that can fly. Fly and get dive-bombed a little bit, peck at a bit of a nest. The energy expension is far less than having to hunt a bird on the wing. So it makes sense that they are doing it. But that was quite sad, I must be honest. I was enthralled by the behavior, and I was hoping that it was going to get through the nest and nothing was going to be in there but an egg, and it was not going to be able to reach it. But it obviously pulled out that chicken. That was that. Shame. That's not nice at all. Talking about birds, though, and sitting with these guys while we wait a little bit. It was that frigate bird was actually seen in the Sabi Sands today. It was seen on Singita, and it was flying southwards. So it's obviously bypassed us already. We won't get it. But it's amazing that there's a frigate bird in the Sabi Sands. It just seems a bit surreal, really. And I'm sure it's going to make its way with this bit of sunshine now. It will make its way south and then kind of cut over the sort of southern sections of the Kruger and back into Mozambique and from there towards the islands that are dotted on the Mozambican coastline. It's almost a somber mood to the weaver nest, isn't the weaver nest tree? Shame, guys. Sorry. Just goes to show you how, even though they've built their nest over water, which is typically a lot safer, there's still going to be predators that are going to figure it out. David, nature is brutal. I mean, that just goes to show you how every single adult living thing we have out here has gone through a series of trials and tribulations, as well as a huge amount of luck to make it to an adult individual, particularly when it comes to birds. Nesting birds are often targeted by the various predators, as are, baby impalas and baby wildebeest. So, it's tough when nature is like this, but at the same time, that predatory bird has got to feed, and the intelligence that it's shown to be able to not only identify that there's a food source here, but also how to get to it without it having to worry about, getting wet and falling or putting too much weight on the nest. It's worked out that if it sits on top and just drills through it, it can still get to the prize. And that might then lead to an adaptation of weaver nest building. You never know. Maybe that pair starts to think, well, hang on a second. Maybe we've got to build our nest slightly differently or in slightly different trees. And they start to use a thorn tree rather, where the bird's wings are going to get caught. what you don't know. These are how things change out here constantly as the battle from prey and predator continually rage. Shame, guys. Sorry. I wonder how many other nests are damaged like that. It's difficult because even on the nest that was where the chick was taken, there's a terrapin, even on the nest where the chick was taken, you can't actually see too much damage to it from here. It just looks a little bit messy. So I don't know how many of these bottom or low hung nests have actually been targeted already, and how many this goshawk has already gotten to. I suspect maybe a few. Like I say, I would be very shocked if it's only hunted there once and is kind of over it, because it did it with absolute precision. It was literally in, landed, kind of went down and started to just pluck at it and, pulled it out. So it knew exactly what it was doing. It wasn't something that was unplanned. Well, I don't think the goshawk is coming back. It would have been back by now. That meal that it had would have been pretty much eaten quite fast, unless it's got a nest of its own, which is in some respects ironic, isn't it? It's just raided a nest, killed a baby to feed its baby, and that's the cycle of life out here in many ways. It's not something that makes sense to us as humans, but in the natural world, that's how it is that everything has got to survive, and they all figure out ways to do it. And the goshawk is just doing what comes naturally to it, and if it's got chicks, it's also trying to just raise its chicks to adulthood. It's always just sad when you have to, see it firsthand, as opposed to, just it arriving at the nest with a food source. It's a bit more depressing when you actually watch it happening. All right, weavers, we'll leave you guys to yourselves. Won't put any more unnecessary pressure on you guys. I think you've had a traumatic little 5 minutes as it is, so we don't really want to cause too much issue. There's nothing else really to speak of in this area. I checked around for a little dwarf bittern or painted snipe or something like that, but nothing that I can see. The little lower pan, which is flooded, the grass is a little long to actually see anything. Even if there was crakes or snipes, you'd really struggle to see them in that long grass. So we'll just have to keep trying, and I'm sure eventually we'll get something in this. It's perfect habitat for a number of those birds. In the meantime, though, I'll send you across to Phinda.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, where we've just come across this herd of zebra. If you notice, they are slowly walking forward and then stopping and scanning. And I think the reason for that is they've seen this other zebra up ahead that wasn't very interested in them. And as this zebra saw them, it kind of just moved off and obviously was a little bit intimidated by a slightly larger herd. Or a group of them, rather. See the stallion coming forward is slightly more confident. He's leading the way, moving right in the direction of that other zebra we saw. Just gonna have a closer look here. And it seems like this might be a small bachelor herd of zebra, and that might be the reason why that zebra that's just ahead of us is feeling a little bit intimidated. You can see they're slightly younger. You can see they've even come into a bit of a gallop now. Let's just try and keep up with them and see what's going on. Quite interesting behavior. Look at the female, not too interested in having them around. There we go. Always quite an interesting interaction seeing zebra when they get a little bit riled up. You can see they're starting to bite each other a little bit, and that's one of their defense mechanisms, as well as quite a nasty kick that they can give. Look at this female from our left now. It's just started to run off, really trying to avoid the subadult group of, or herd of zebra. Those two on the left, they are just kind of giving each other little nibbles. Nothing serious. The one in the middle seems to be the trouble causer. Oh, the one in the back is in a little bit of a dangerous spot. It's quite interesting to see them kicking forward. It's something that you don't see too often. And they usually use their hind legs to kick. Marianne, they, thanks for the question. So they will act like this until they feel that they are old enough and mature enough to try and find a herd of their own, or a harem. And so it could take from a couple of months to a few years. As soon as they start getting more testosterone and start developing other characteristics that could make them more dominant, such as size, then they'll head off, they'll leave this bachelor herd and try and find a few females to join up with. If you look at them now, you can see the one that's in the front, slightly larger, a little bit of wrinkles on his neck, so he might be the oldest in this group. Whoa, bit of a showboat kick there, nothing serious. I'm just saying, don't get too close to me. But typical adolescent behavior as well, just a bit of fun and games and testing out their different new testosterone that they're getting, and new hormones that they aren't quite used to. As a foal, they wouldn't have had those. Yo, that would have been a really beautiful picture. Yo. Yo. Eloise, thank you. Oh, it is such an interesting sighting. Really amazing to see them. Whoa, a bit of a kick there. It's awesome to see zebra behaving like this, because often, because you see zebra quite a bit more than other animals, you don't actually take too much notice and you often don't stop for very long. But this has been an incredible sighting. I don't know if you can hear that little squealing sound. So just a bit of discontent once again. I'm just going to angle a little bit differently. There's some wildebeest that are also joining in the scene now as well. It'll be quite interesting to see how these zebra react to them. Whoops, a bit of a stall there. And it's something you do see quite often, zebra and wildebeest interacting together. If you look right in front of us, you can see some of the younger wildebeest just with that slightly lighter color. Just going to cross the road quite soon. And it's amazing, all these young wildebeest would have been born sometime around November, December, and very, very light in color. And as they're getting older now, they're starting to get that darker tone. There's one of the younger ones. And it's amazing, they know that in summer, that's when lots of the rains come, so that means younger and new grass shoots. So they know that that's the best time to have young foals, just to get the most nutrition that they can, in order for them to grow as quick as possible. You can imagine out here with a lot of predators around, they have to grow up really fast and can't afford to not be able to run almost straight away. So with all this luscious green grass around, it really does support them, obviously with a lot of mom's milk that's being supported by that that grass. So Luke, they live in a harem, so there's one male usually, with multiple females. It can be from 1 to 15, and there might be some younger males, but as soon as those males start to get a little bit older, the stallion will kick them out and tell them to head out, and then they'll join up with what we've just seen now, which is a young bachelor herd, until they get old enough to establish a harem of their own. It's lovely. We've had such amazing rains recently, and these zebra all look so clean and healthy, look in really, really good condition. Don't know if you can see this one just feeding behind the bush. On his neck there are a few scars and actually some scrape marks. It almost looks like one of the injuries is oozing there. And it almost looks, if you look carefully, as if there could potentially have been a lion that had taken down that zebra. And having those scars close to the neck there, it could have been from jaws. And as we know, zebra are very hardy and very resilient, so they put up a big fight when being chased. So this one seems to have escaped very, very luckily. But those wounds will heal very quickly, especially with all this luscious green grass around at the moment. So here, I'm sure you might. I haven't seen one myself. I know that there was a melanistic zebra recently in the Masai Mara that was very, very interesting looking, quite different to the usual. Oh, there's quite a young foal here as well. Just going to try and angle. Very different to the usual colors of a zebra, but it'd be quite an interesting thing if there was an albino zebra. I don't think it would last too long. The stripes on a zebra will play a very important role in their survival, so I'm sure the other predators might be able to see it a lot easier. Look at this tiny little foal here, so awesome to see. If you look carefully, you can see how fluffy it is. Just going to change around here. Following close behind mom. Those tiny skinny legs. And this foal is probably only a couple of months old. I'm sure the stallion in this group, or in this harem, would rather not have those adolescent males around. So if they had to get any closer here, he would definitely chase them away. So cute. Look how it's just going into suckle there now. Rubbing his face, maybe got a little itch on his face, rubbing up against mum's leg. But you see though, the foal will follow very, very closely behind mum, not wanting to get any distance between them, because obviously that foal can't protect itself at the moment. It can run, but it relies on mom completely for survival at this age. Mom will also be a lot more alert with such a young foal around. She'll be a lot more attentive, looking around. And so we're going to stick here for a little while, see what these zebra get up to.
I don't know if any of you used to do that as a child. Make little boats out of leaves and sticks, put them in the water and then chase them down. I used to get horribly wet and get home and get into a lot of trouble for being so wet. But what fun. In Johannesburg, in the summer months, like here, the rain's so warm, the weather's warm, you get wet, it's fine, you don't really mind. But getting home into a house when your clothes are all still very wet and damp, yeah, it's not always the best thing. How beautiful. So we just take a moment under the trees in the shade just to get your feet in the water, cool down. This water would be very drinkable, everybody. It's got a little bit of salt to it from the just from the sediment it's picking up, but you'd be able to drink this. There's beautiful runoff from the catchments, from the sandy sort of grounds, from up at the top of the slope, the water going in, seeping through the ground and coming out through these sort of soft river sand beds, a term called hyperrheic. So basically what happens is the water level lifts up underneath and it starts to flow. It doesn't always come off the bank. It hits the water table, fills up the water table and starts to flow through these sort of streams. Beautiful, isn't it? So peaceful here in the shade, underneath the jackalberry tree, the tambuti tree. I remember taking my brother on safari years ago and it was raining. It had been raining like it had been now. And we took him to a lot of these little streams and water holes and little puddles along the way when the temperatures were exceedingly warm, and we were able to swim and keep ourselves nice and cool, because here you can see the bottom. There's no crocodiles, so you'll be okay. So we'll probably spend another few moments here, and then we'll probably move off back into the sunshine to go see if we can find some animals.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. We're still with the zebra, and if you look carefully, the stallion is not very, very comfortable, not very happy with those other young stallions around. He's put himself in between those young stallions and the rest of the herd, just being very, very cautious, obviously not making sure that they're not coming any closer. He hasn't been feeding at all, so he's just been looking around while the others have been feeding. There we go. Maybe they've moved off far enough for him to feel comfortable enough to eat. It's quite interesting to see now that young foal has just put its head down to feed a little bit now as well. At this stage of its life, it would be suckling like we saw a little bit earlier. But it just starts to be feeding on grass as well. Watching the adults all feeding on grass, maybe thinks maybe she should try as well. Very, very sweet, but I'm sure it'll predominantly be suckling, be feeding on milk at the moment. So lovely to watch that young foal just grooming mom a little bit there. Something that's quite special about zebras. They're quite affectionate, they're quite social, and you often will see them grooming each other, cleaning, keeping each other clean, and even resting each other's heads on one another. It's quite something I really enjoy about zebra. It's so lovely to see as well all those full bellies. Maggie, if you're asking about the foal, I think that foal's a couple of months old. Yeah, probably no longer than older than 2 months old. So you can see really, really small, still got skinny legs, and when we had a nice shot of it earlier, a lot of fluff on the, especially the hind area on the back, as well as the tail, quite a bit shorter than the adults. And as that foal gets older, that fluffy fur will start to fall out and go away, and that tail will get a little bit longer as well and become more of a fly swat like those other zebras are using it for now. Sam, they definitely are a threat to foals. If those other male zebra had come across this foal and mother by itself, they would definitely have maybe chased it away. I've seen before where male zebra, where stallions have tried to even kill a young foal before, but obviously mom is very protective, and if that's the dominant stallion does see it, he's going to protect it as much as he can. I've even seen a video of a stallion trying to drown a foal before, which is quite interesting. Haven't seen that in real life, but yeah, they definitely would be a big threat to this foal. With those other males quite young still, they probably wouldn't put up much of a fight against this larger stallion and the rest of the herd. So that's maybe why they haven't tried anything just yet. Just trying to find if we can find a spot around the clearer spot. I think we found one now. It's really lovely out here this afternoon. Bit of cloud cover coming over, and not so hot anymore. So these zebra are very, very happy. There's lots of water around, so that's also one of the reasons that their condition is looking so good. So we're going to send you off to Steve, and we'll catch up with you guys later. It's wonderful. Just cooling down in the stream, everybody. It is a wonderful afternoon to be out and about in the game reserve, and it's not every year you get to see the water flowing like this. Last year it flowed, and when last does it flow? Before that. So when these moments happen, we have to embrace them. Okay, let me see if I can make you a little boat. So a boat and a stick. Now, come on, if you did this as a child, I'm sure you did. Oh, it's not the best leaf. I think my stick's a bit big. Who didn't do this as a child? Okay, we're ready. Ready, go boy. Oh, that was horrible. He just sunk to the bottom. I did one earlier that was far better. Hey, Paul, it was, wasn't it? That was far better. Maybe I need to do it with a tool, some form of tool. Let me, jackalberry leaves are working quite well.
Charles, this isn't even a river. This is a little stream that goes into the Mawati. So we've got Chelapan just up here, and the Mawati is behind there. So this is just a small little drainage. There we go. Go, boy. Just a small little drainage that feeds into the Mawati. And I'm sure... My tree just sunk. But distribution of seeds is quite interesting. You see, got some leadwood seeds over here that are being distributed by the water. And leadwoods, we know, like to grow in very sort of deep, alluvial, sandy soils along rivers. So these have been distributed by... could be this fellow right here, which means that the distribution of these seeds could go downstream. And if it finds the nice spot to find purchase, it will grow into a giant tree. Tiny little seed like that. Something very heartwarming about being just here in the river. It's really wonderful. Okay, well, I'm going to get my feet out of the water now. Back in the car. On we go. Really important to get back into the sunshine. And Kylie, the Mawati will eventually flow down to, I believe, the Sand River, which is further down. It will meet with the Milwanini further down from here, and then a couple of them. I have never been that far south from here. Tristan might know better the exact direction, but it will eventually meet the Sand River. It might even meet the Manuleti along the way, and the Pungwe, which are both on this side. They all eventually sort of conjoin and then might hit the Sand River. But I'm not sure exactly at which point they do that. But I know that the Mawati goes all the way down to Mala Mala, which is where the Sand River is. Thank you, River. You've been a treat. On we go. Feeling quite refreshed after that. Just telling him, Paul, that I was in there once following Hosanna, and I got stuck for a moment. I got out, though. I got out. There was no concern. There was no call a friend that day. Okay. So just over here is where Chela, the lioness of the Nkumas, was having her cubs this time last year. I don't know if any of you remember us seeing her calling in the road. She was right here, and the den was just over here. That's the same stream that's going down there, the same, what we call a drainage line, everybody. A drainage line is obviously depressions in the landscape that water accumulates and floods down to a more major river. We don't have any major rivers up here in the north. They're all semi-permanent, which means that they are ephemeral, seasonal, relying on the rains. Without the rains, they won't flow. But 2 years in a row, the Mawati has flown. We're going to go down now and have a look at the Mawati and see what it looks like, if you're right with that. Yes? I think so. Here's Chelapan on the left. It's full. It's very full. I don't think we're going to get a good view of it. That's probably about as good as it gets. Chelapan with its wonderful little jackleberry tree. And it is a seasonal pan that actually lasts quite a long time. And Chelapan is probably a pan that was developed similarly to the way I was discussing the elephants earlier, digging in the earth, removing sediment. And you can see there's some foam nest frogs. And just at the base there is the water, but there's a bit of grass around. But that is a pan that actually lasts quite long, and it's all rain-fed. There's nothing artificial about it. I'm not sure if there was any artificial design in it, but it's definitely a seasonal pan. It's not pumped at all, so you can see the water. Beautiful, beautiful seasonality. And this is one of the pans in Djuma that actually lasts for a fair period of time, because of the very, very clayey soil that's accumulated there. It's just above the riverbed. Behind the tall trees at the back is the Mawati itself. So you'll often find just above the river line, you'll get these sort of pan-like systems. They're often demarcated by a land of quarries, and essentially what's happened is that sediment has been pushed from the top of the slope down to the bottom, and the clay particles are pretty small. They often wash through the landscape. Now, bear in mind, a lot of this happened long before vegetation was even around. But vegetation now curbs a lot of the erosion effect that happens. But in these low-lying areas just above sort of river lines, you'll often find very, very nice sort of pan-like systems. I'm very excited. I'm going to be doing a few trails up in Prrivate in northern Kruger in August. And there is some pans up there which are all included in a Ramsar site, which is basically wetlands of international importance. And those pans are just off the mighty Limpopo River. And they are home to an enormous amount of seasonal migrating wading birds. And when we get as much rain as we have now, there's a very good chance that in August it's going to be absolutely pumping, because there's an enormous amount of basalt soil up that side of the world, and those pans just turn into a wonderland in the winter. Elephants, buffalo, and a plethora of magical birds. So I'm very excited. Very excited, in fact. Terry, the problem is that when it comes to negatives with regards to the rain, it's always a human-influenced negative. For example, people's homes, people's livelihoods are destroyed. But this environment has designed itself to receive the amount of rain that it had. I mean, looking around, the only real damage we see is to where people have put infrastructure in, so roads, for example, or maybe buildings. But when it comes to the vegetation, if the vegetation's been left to do its natural designs and natural devices, everything works out just fine. The rain washes away lots and lots. But unfortunately, Mozambique got hit very, very hard, and Mozambique already is a very poor country, and so many of the people there are pretty low on the poverty line, and so everything that they own would have gone with those floods. Because floods don't discriminate, everybody. They do not discriminate. And if you don't have a very, very solid house, or you're below the flood line, which Mozambique is pretty much, Mozambique is one massive sand dune, evidence of a water line or level that was much higher many, many, many moons ago. So whenever you get big rains and big floods, pretty much huge portions of Mozambique find themselves underwater. But here in the parks, we haven't seen tremendous damage. I don't think the rains have been as extensive as they have in the past. The 2013 floods saw floods which actually caused enormous damage in parts of the Kruger. I haven't heard of too much damage, but to be honest, there's been so much news internationally. I've been keeping a very low profile on all of that. Beautiful. Okay, well, we need to move. The sun is starting to cook, so we're going to go along this other little road here, little pan system, and we'll find a few more pans along the way. In the meantime, sounds like Tristan himself is also on the move.
As you can see, we've continued our birding this afternoon. We now have a brown snake eagle, and that is sitting beautifully up in the tree. They're such easy birds to identify from long distance just because of that big, round, robust head and those bare featherless legs and that kind of squared out tail. They're pretty easy to kind of work out. They also sit very upright, so they have a very typical kind of stance that snake eagles have, but the head more than anything else is what gives it away. There was a few drongos around, and I was hoping that they would do what drongos normally do, which is mob them. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, there's these drongos that will mob them enough that they actually start to even sit on top of the head and peck at the head of these brown snake eagles. There's quite a few photos out there of snake eagles with drongos perched on top. It's a funny thing to see, but it does happen. But they've both flown away now, so we're not going to see that this afternoon. You can see the bird's quite hot. Its beak is open at the moment. It's practicing goulaf flutter, which I'd imagine most cats are also doing with the hot sun that we have today, they'll be panting. So this is a bird's way of panting, is just to open the beak, very fast, rapid movements, helps with the cooling process. And like some birds, which, I mean, these guys are not that way, but if you look at storks and things like that, and you see legs that have that same coloration that these guys do, they're practicing a different technique to cooling down. It's called urohydrosis. It's basically defecating on your legs and then using the liquid form and the wind to cool the blood down on the leg. We know that when you add water and you blow wind over it, it has a cooling effect. Evaporation is cooling in nature, and so some birds do it. These white legs that you see there is not the case. This bird has not pooped on itself. Those legs are like that for a reason. They're, as the name suggests, big snake hunters, and so you need to have a bit of armor plating on the tools that you use in order to catch snakes. And so those legs, if they weren't covered in scales and it was just feathers, something like a mamba or puff adder or something like that could grab onto there, inject venom, and potentially kill the bird. But if they have these hardened scales, it's much harder for those fangs to penetrate, and they can dispatch the snake before the snake is able to do too much damage to them. And that works probably 90 times out of 100. Every now and then, though, there will be a snake that kind of, if the bird doesn't get it quite right, that it'll rear up and be able to get it somewhere on the body. We've seen it with on Chitwa before, actually. I mean, we didn't get it on WildEarth, but it was a sighting that we had, which was, two leopards, a brown snake eagle, and a mamba, which was craziness. The snake eagle came for the mamba got the snake eagle, the leopard survived because of the commotion. Crazy sighting. Shame, it actually was quite bad that snake eagle was still alive in the afternoon. It was not able to fly, it was just lying on the road, struggling to breathe. It wasn't very pleasant at all, but I think that night it got dispatched by hyenas. More than anything else. Jerome, you say this bird has a funny stare or intense stare. They have a beautiful colored eye, these guys. It's this bright yellow eye. And so when they look, it's a piercing gaze in many ways. They're able to kind of stare at you. I always find eagles have an angry look about them, or stern look about them. They have this kind of hardened eyebrow, and then the way they look over the sharpened beak gives you this, doesn't have a very soft feel to it. It almost looks as though they're etched with kind of fear and well, they're not fearful, but they etch fear into others. So they have quite a stern stare about them. But those eyes are super powerful. These guys, can you imagine from up there spotting snakes in this long grass and being able to hunt them? It's a very, very, very unique little skill to have those eyes that birds of prey have. You'll probably find, though, now a lot of like the hunting that they're doing or catches that they're getting are actually on roads. And that's probably why it's sitting very close to a road right now, is it's just watching. And as snakes come across the road, so they're vulnerable, much easier to see than in this long grass that we're seeing over here. Even from above, it's difficult to see snakes in this long grass. But if they cross a road, they're then out in the open and sitting ducks, and this eagle can come flying down and grab them. I'm surprised it's sat for as long as it has. They generally aren't the most cooperative of birds. Snake eagles often, you come and park next to them and they sit for a bit and then they just take off and go. But this one seems to be very, very chilled about life and is not worrying too much about our presence. There we go. Just as I say it, it's taken off. Dylan, I'm actually not 100% sure. Most birds of prey do. Most birds of prey are monogamous, but I'm not sure about brown snake eagles. I'll have to check. We don't have any nesting pairs around here, so I haven't really looked into it too much. But I would expect that would be the case. Like I say, most birds of prey are that way inclined. All right, well, we are on Chitwa at the moment. We're just bumbling. I had tracks for lions, which I mean, it's not a lot of lions. I think it must be the torchwood females from this morning moving about on Chitwa. So we're going to try to see if we can find them, and then we'll try and look for any sign of Tandi's little boy, or Kuchava and the cub, or Sabi and the cubs. We'll just do a little bumble about, and then maybe go sit at the dam for a bit and just listen out for any alarm calls. I find that's always a good technique on Chitwa, particularly because it's so quiet. There's not a single other vehicle that I've managed to get hold of that's out this afternoon. So it looks like it's just us on Chitwa, on this part of the reserve. So it's going to be up to us to actually find anything. So hopefully we'll get lucky. We'll be able to pick up one of the various cats that could be here. All right, so while I bumble around and just check out all the various areas and where the tracks have headed for those lines, let's send you across to Steve, who's doing much like what I am and is bumbling about. Oh, welcome back to Djuma. We just had a beautiful long-tailed paradise wider who decided not to stick around. Cheeky. I want to get you on camera. They're very cool birds. Very, very cool birds. But how awesome was it that Tristan got to see that goshawk earlier, raiding that nest? That's not something you get to see very often. And what were the adults doing? Were they just going, standing back? Gabba goshawk is a voracious bird hunter. I've seen them chasing many birds before. I've never physically seen them raiding a nest, so that's very cool to see. So guiding, we spoke a little bit about guiding. That's awesome for me is whenever you see something, there's so many things to learn about in the guiding world, but once you've seen it, everybody, it's fact. There are a lot of things that we've seen out here that aren't written in any books. Aren't written any books anywhere. Here we have got treehouse, watering hole. So that's one thing I always used to tell my students was that you've seen it now. Now it is fact. You've seen an impala doing something. You've seen a gabba goshawk doing something. And it's amazing how many of those facts you can retain rather than having to book learn so many things. It's important initially to learn a lot of stuff, but as your career goes on and on, you'll start developing your own stories and your own factual things that you've physically seen. Beautiful. So it's about as full as treehouse watching hole gets. I said we're going to do a little bit of a waterhole survey today. This is one of them. We stopped at Vuitela or Gary Dam earlier, but it was just too hot to stick around, and we're feeling it now again. It's very warm without moving. We're going to go and have a look at Twin Dams, and then going to try to show you the Mulati at some point and see if we can maybe cross. If we can't cross, we won't, but we'll have a look. We'll have a look. Dylan, my favorite thing about being in the bush, how much time do you have? Oh, the bush is so unexpected. It's hard to say. I mean, that's the thing is you can come out of camp like I did this morning and this afternoon, and two completely different scenes awaited us. One was a herd of elephants this afternoon with babies, and this morning was a pride of lions being active. So the bush has the potential to provide you with wonderful sightings, like impalas just deciding to walk straight into frame. You never know what you could expect out here. The ability to follow animals, the ability to track the seasonality of this place. I mean, if this place stayed green all year and it was full of water all year, wildflowers, hot all year, I think it would probably lose its magic. But because it only is like that for a certain amount of time, and then it goes through the droughts and the seasonality and goes dry, and we have changes in it all, I think that's what makes it so wonderful. But I'm not going to lie, and I mean, if we're going to have to obviously have a point here. Elephants swimming. Anything with elephants and then elephants swimming has got to be one of my favorite things to do out here. And Tristan was very fortunate the other morning to arrive at this particular waterhole as we get once again a very rude impala walking through shot. And he had them swimming and bathing and doing all sorts of things on the other side. I think those were with you, Paul, was it? No, we joined them a little bit after, actually. So elephants playing in the mud or in the water is always very entertaining.
So now fact, impala males don't only hang out on their own, they often hang out in small groups of boys. There you can see that. They come and drink in the hottest time of the day, sometimes. And when they walk in single file, similar to what zebras do, except the zebra stallion does it for the benefit of his herd. Impala do it for the benefit of themselves. They are quite selfish, and hanging out in herds is not for the benefit of their friends. No, it's for the benefit of themselves. And in saying that as well, you can see the impala's busy feeding on a little little tree there, which I don't know what it is from this distance, but quite heavily browsed. You could go and analyze that bush afterwards and know for a fact that impalas feed on that particular plant. So many facts to be generated on one's own. Many of the viewers who've been watching the show for years have seen incredible things. When I started, I had quite a few sort of questions about leopards, and many viewers were able to share with me and fill me in on things that have taken place. Those are all facts, everybody. You might not find them in a book. I've seriously considered putting together a book on the things I've seen and the things we've seen. I reckon an enormous amount of leopard ecology and leopard behavior in these areas is not actually as well documented as we'd like. It's probably in many scientific papers all over the place, but a little user-friendly manual for people to learn from, because sometimes scientific papers, are rather difficult to wrap one's head around.
Well, books about life is always a good thing to be doing, Steve. It's actually a funny thing because lots of people often ask us, why don't you guys do a book about all your stories and things? And I always just think, it would be good to do it, but not sure how many people would respond to a lot of it. Might seem like a lot. I don't know, maybe get James involved and ask him to help us out. Might work. I thought I had a track for a leopardess, but it just didn't seem very fresh at all. So I'm just checking quite slowly at the moment to see if maybe Kuchava was walking around here. It would be her territory that we're in right now. I don't see any sign on this road though. I drove here yesterday afternoon and I didn't pick up anything yesterday. So if there are, then it's on top of my tracks from yesterday. Problem is that 5 million elephants that have walked around, I think they've stood all over the top of it. There's nothing that I can see that's fresh. There's just eddy tracks all over the road, so not convinced that she was here. What we're looking for is a track that's on top of everything. That's what we need. Maybe get lucky at some point with her track somewhere down this area. This is a place that she likes to spend a lot of time where we are now, down from here kind of southwards towards Cheetah Plains. Unfortunately, as this drops here, we don't have much signal, so I don't really check often for her down there because of it. So I'm hoping that if she is around, she's still up on this side of the world. I think Tandy might have moved to Torchwood. I'm not convinced, but I have a kind of inkling that that's the case. There's something that's nagging at me, saying that it would be worthwhile to go check Torchwood. The problem is where she likes to spend time is so wet. I don't think it's even worth trying to drive there. We're just going to cause a whole bunch of damage, as Steve has been going into detail during the course of this afternoon, and why we protect the roads. All right, I'm going to keep looking. Hopefully we'll get a little Chitwa surprise at some point. Only try.
Well, even the giraffe are hanging out in the shade, everybody. You know it's warm. Giraffe are quite well adapted at getting rid of the heat. This fellow is being very shy. I heard the oxpeckers, but we had his tracks coming away from Treehouse. And now he started to feed again. He's just ducking out of sight. There we go. Hello, beautiful boy. Are you going to come out in the sunshine for us, or are you enjoying the shade? He's enjoying the shade. Even the oxpeckers have found themselves a decent meal. Yay, we found a giraffe in the shade. It's too hot to hang out otherwise. I heard Tristan talking about gullah fluttering before. You'll see that the oxpeckers were gullah fluttering a moment ago. Their mouths open. They don't sweat like we do. So they've got to allow the wind to blow over their mouth, over their tongue, cool them down, but that requires moisture. Which means they're going to have to drink more regularly. Almost looks like he's gotten wet, doesn't it? The mane of his hair. No. I've never seen a giraffe go for a swim. That would be quite something, wouldn't it? A swimming giraffe. I'm sure they can swim. Let me just move up a touch for you there. You can just hold that frame. Get you another view of him. He's not even ruminating, not even chewing. That oxpecker's the king of the castle. A little bit of throat clean. I'd love to actually experience that for a moment or two. Oxpeckers hanging on my body. Charles, I do. They've got a great view up there. View from the top. I'd love to feel what it feels like having an oxpecker clinging to my body and cleaning me. I'm not saying I've got ticks, everybody. I need to be cleaned, but I'd love to just experience how annoying it could be. Would you like that, Paul? No. Maybe. You're good, eh? He's not sure. He's undecided. He's undecided. I got Paul off earlier, though, to get his feet wet in the stream. He was quite happy about that. Pearl-spotted owlet calling. That's not a call you should attempt, everybody, with a dry mouth. You need to have a well-moistened pair of lips to be able to get the pearl-spotted owlet call correct. I don't know why, but he looks a little bit sad, doesn't he? What's wrong, big fella? I think he's just going, crikey, it's hot. Hello, Genzani. Giraffe can tuck their feet up and they can lie down, so basically sitting down like a goat or a cow would do, if you've ever seen that before, with their legs just tucked up under them, and their head straight up in the air. But they also, pretty much when they're ruminating, which he hasn't been doing, he's chewing the cud, they go into a very meditative state. So they actually, when ruminating, are pretty much resting the mind. So a big fella like this doesn't really need more than 20 minutes of sleep a day. Can you imagine that? 20 minutes. Less than 6 hours, I start to struggle. Although lately, I've been managing. Oh, there we go. He's going to move. Are you going to move? No. He's got such a straight neck. Oh, he's stretching. Look at that stretch. Oh, what a stretch. Bear in mind, everybody, they've got the same number of cervical vertebrae in that neck as we do. Only 7. Obviously, all of them are much more enlarged. Imagine trying to stretch your neck the way he did. Incredible. Now, Because he's not looking. Oh, he's not eating. He's just staring into the vegetation there. So I think that's one of the reasons, one of the issues oxpeckers actually have on certain animals is they'll keep pecking open a wound, a scar, a scab. And there's a papillomavirus, which is sort of like a type of animal herpes that gets passed around by giraffe. It's very specific to giraffe, and it is distributed to giraffe by oxpeckers through the wounds. They'll peck scabs open, and sometimes, I've seen a couple before, they make your skin crawl, where the body's covered in these welts, these bumps, little like blister-like sort of things. And that is a disease or a virus, should I say, that is transferred via oxpecker beaks. So oxpeckers, as good as they are and as good as they seem, they also have the potential to infect these animals. I haven't seen many in this area, but I've seen one before that looked ghastly. Okay, well, we have to move now. We are cooking, absolutely cooking in the sun. Sorry about that, everybody, but there's only so much sitting in the sun that we can do before we start to melt. We have applied excessive amounts of sun cream. We might end up at a muddy wallow just now and smear ourselves with mud, and Paul's very excited to do that. He's not. I've tried. He didn't even want any on the face the other day. Some of my warrior paint. Even though I told him it was good luck. Ah, shade. Wonderful shade. Leo, you'd think an animal that's sleeping is vulnerable, but the rumination process is actually one where the animal's brain switches right down low to an automatic sort of ingestion, digestion, chewing motion, but they're very alert. There's still an alarm call or any sound, and it's not like you or I when you wake with that moment of like, whoa, what's going on, look around, they're immediately up. So the brain just gets lowered to a capacity of a sleeping animal, essentially a meditating animal. For example, if you meditate, you can switch back to normal senses almost immediately. There's no, hang on, I'm zonked, I'm out of it. So that's essentially what rumination is. The animal's brain lowers, and when they tuck their legs up and under them and sit, then their body's resting. So, for example, that's a beautiful little spider web, and you get him. Looks like an old orb web, I'm not sure. But for example, if you're lying down and you meditate and your body's lying flat on the ground and you fall asleep like that, or even if you stay awake the whole night and you're able to meditate while your body's lying flat, you actually would get a full night's rest. Full night's rest even if you don't sleep. The concern we have is we start to panic. We start to stress that we're not sleeping, and that adds worry and anxiety leads your body to store things, and it causes all sorts of things and triggers, and end up eventually getting some sleep in the morning and having a horrible night. But if you lie there and you maintain very balanced and you rest your body and you get into meditative state and you don't stress, you'll spend the entire night without sleeping and wake up refreshed and rejuvenated. That's essentially how yogis live their lives. Yogis apparently don't sleep. They're just meditating all the time. Looks like an old orb web spider with a little stabilimentum or junk line there towards the top. Beautiful little spot. It's getting to the end of the season for these fellas, but some of them might have started again due to the fact that we've had lots of rain. Can you see the junk line? All those animal bodies that have been laying there to basically give the web some substance or a visibility element to it, so that organisms, birds, animals will see it and hopefully walk around so that it don't destroy the web. Very intricate designs, but you can see that the web's a bit old. It's tattered in places and broken. It needs a little bit of maintenance. But it's possible this female's already laid eggs, and has passed on. Okay, well, we're going to go and check another watering hole, and while we do so, and send you back over the Tristan, see if he's had any luck with those line tracks.
Well, while Steve goes and checks another watering hole, I'm trying to see where these lines have gone. This is where I had the last track, is right here, but the problem is that this is the boundary right here on my right-hand side. So Chitwa on the left, Vessels on the right, and I think they might have gone into Vessels by the looks of things. I definitely don't see any signs of any tracks here. It's so long, the grass, though, that they could be just sitting on my left here in the shade. Wherever they are, they're in the shade. The lines won't be moving around too much right now. It's too hot for them. Nothing that I can see here. Let's go back to that junction quickly and just double check. The problem also is that the junction, the road is so very, very, very hard. Give me something to work with here, Lions. Definitely an Ellie that walked here. Yes, they went into Vessels, unfortunately. So if you see over here in the road, there's a beautiful little track there, nice fresh track, somewhere just ahead of the Ellie track. So there it is there. For a lioness, at least one, but like I said, there is tracks for, I think it's 3 of them, so it must be Torchwood Pride lionesses. They've gone straight this way. So that ends that search, unfortunately. I was hoping that they were going to be somewhere close by, but they're crossed over. Okay, well, there goes that idea. That's the back foot, by the way, of a lioness. You can see much longer than the front foot. The front foot would be a lot rounder. But that road leads all the way to Little Gowrie Camp, basically. Maybe they've gone towards a dam that's called Treehouse Dam. So not the one that we have on Djuma, but there's another one on Little Gowrie itself. Oh well, let's go try to see if Sabi's cubs are around. Take a little bumble and look for them on the cut line here. I feel like a lot of the leopards are also on kills at the moment, so after that rainy weather they would have taken advantage of the wet, kind of drizzly, damp, cold, dark weather. We saw what the Telematis did, so you can bet that most of your experienced leopards were in a similar boat, taking as many animals as they can. For those of you that didn't see what the Telematis did, they killed 3 wildebeest in one afternoon. So they were using the weather conditions to their advantage, and I'm pretty sure there were others that did the same. That's why I've been trying to scan trees quite heavily in the hope that a carcass is up somewhere or we get something. But at the end of the day, if it's not close to the road, then, you know, it isn't there's not really much I can do. Even if we find a kind of a drag mark, we're not going to be able to figure it out or find anything. The other amazing thing is we're on Chitwa today. There's not a single elephant that I've seen. Yesterday this was just elephant central. They were everywhere, but today not one so far. Maybe this afternoon as it starts to cool down, we're going to start seeing them coming down towards Chitwa Dam. This track's for hyenas. I wonder if it's not worth just taking a little drive up to Torchwood quickly. Might be. Let's go and see if there's anything on that eastern side of Torchwood. Let's just check here first for any signs of Sabi's little ones. See if they maybe are hanging around. If nothing for them, then I think it's going to be a good idea to maybe head towards Torchwood and go and scratch there, see if there's any tracks that side. Yes, Lauren, they have. I mean, if they hadn't moved territories, then we would have seen them a lot more, particularly after the rains. They would be there scent marking, they would be responding to these contact calls that the telematis have been doing if they were in the area. So it seems like they have, and that would be probably due to the fact that the evokers themselves are moving further south too. We're even seeing it with Darkmane. He's moving more towards Arethusa now, so he's kind of pushing further and further south. And so are the prides. They're just protecting their assets, which are their cubs, with those males. And that's why they're constantly kind of changing territory. So I would say the answer to your question is yes. It's been long enough now that we haven't been seeing the Nkuhumas that would make sense. If it was just a week or so, then no. But when you have multiple weeks like it's been with the Nkuhumas, or multiple months, then I think you've got to just take it as a sign that unfortunately their territory is starting to change and shift a little bit. It's not to say that they won't come back, though. That's the thing about lion territories is while they do change, it's not always going to stay the same, and they're ever evolving, and they're actually a lot more fluid than people realize. So while they are territorial within their area at the time, changes in males, changes in food availability, changes in water availability will mean that the pride will do what it needs to do to survive. And if that means pushing into a place where other prides are, or trying to find a new area to thrive, then that's what they will do. They're not going to just stay in one place and kind of demise, or let demise come to them. You'll find that they're going to constantly try and always keep the pride going and keep the cubs safe. So yeah, I think we'll see, maybe see them again, but they'll be infrequent visitors. I think they're going to become a bit like the sticks for us. The sticks used to be these kind of infrequent visitors, and the Nkuhumas were more the main pride. But let's not forget also that, in 2011, 2012, the Nkuhuma pride wasn't really a feature of the Djuma landscape. It was the sticks and the Salala breakaways. The Nkuhumas were far north, like what the telematis were when the Nkuhumas were here. There's always going to be changes that's going to take place with these prides. Okay, no sign of the little nonsenses that are Sabuis, so we'll just keep on the cut line for a little bit longer. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, in a little pan next to the road, we found ourselves a big male African bullfrog. That's very interesting. These fellows are so cool. They actually can be quite aggressive. And what they do is they compete quite heavily with mating. And then eventually, when the mating's done and the eggs are fertilized, hundreds, if not thousands, of little tadpoles will be laying or hatched inside a little puddle. And what this male does, because you can't see it, we got a very awkward angle here. What this male does is this little puddle around us here is filled with baby little tadpoles. And so what he does is, because the tadpoles actually grow very, very well in the shallow water. So what actually tends to happen is that the shallows that they end up breeding in ends up getting a bit shallower and cut off from a main stream or a main puddle or more moisture. And so what this fellow will do, he'll actually go and dig and tunnel and make that shallow that those little tadpoles are sort of spending their time in, because where it's warmer in those shallows helps them to grow quicker. He will then dig. He'll dig with his back legs and channel the one puddle to another so that they can continue to grow. Isn't that amazing? He serves no other purpose. He's there to defend them. He's even been known to charge predators, to charge people, to scare them away. The largest of the frogs that we find around, although he's very much a toad. Isn't he? Look at him. Now, once they hatch, or once they emerge from the water, the baby bullfrogs eat everything they come across. Absolutely everything, including some of their fellows. So it becomes a feeding frenzy to grow as quickly as they possibly can. And then the individuals will essentially become adults, and then they'll bury themselves into a muddy area and cover themselves in sort of a viscous-like, cocoon-like element of some sort, and that will protect them until the next wet season. So they go into a form of hibernation or torpor, and then when the rains emerge again, they come out next year. So out of the thousands of eggs, only so many will reach adulthood, but they come out of the water with their mouths wide open, looking to eat absolutely everything that they can get their mouths around. Isn't he wonderful? I was looking for one this morning because in one of the little pans next to where the lions were left this morning, there was one last year or the year before. Elliot, he's about the size of my fist. So how big is that? I can't tell you exactly. I don't have a weight for you right now. But he's big. He's very big. But he's hiding in the shallows, ready to defend his brood. Nice one, Paul. I'm glad you were able to get that. Hello, Sam, 8 years old. Yes, there's one specifically poisonous frog in this area, the banded rubber tree frog, which has got bright red colors with black. So in nature, any contrasting color, so red and black or yellow and black, you must be very careful, very careful, and don't go near that. They are designed to be very unpalatable. Can you see this over here, Paul? I don't know if you can still get that. It's a feeding frenzy of tadpoles right there. Not sure if you can get it. Can you see what I'm pointing at? Little black mass there. Do you see what I'm pointing at? Just here. I don't know if the car's in the way. You see that little ball of movement? Down in the car's in the way. Terribly sorry, everybody. But there's a swarming mass of tadpoles. There must be thousands of them, all just going in a circle. And that is the brood that this fellow is looking after. If you lost him. Very good. Well, we're going to carry on. Got another couple of watering holes to check. Little Miss Meyer, I believe they'll just remain. A drought, numbers can decline, but I think they can probably stay an entire year or in entire another season. I'm not 100% certain, but they always seem to come back. You seem to lose lots of frogs in the drought, and then suddenly they come back again. So obviously these animals occur here and have for many years, and we get seasonal droughts and seasonal wet periods periodically. So there's these cycles in nature, and so the animals have obviously done very well to adapt to it. Otherwise they wouldn't be here in the first place. It's not the first drought that we come through recently, and this is not the first wet season. So many of the animals have basically designed their life cycles around it. Isn't he a special fellow? Jen, frogs and toads, there's a couple of differences, but the major difference is the fact that frogs are almost exclusively water dependent, whereas toads can move away. Obviously, the tree frog the foam nest frog, they seem to do very well away from water, but their breeding is essential in water, as is with toads. But frogs are often always found near water. They've got a little bit longer legs, and they're able to jump further. Toads are more of a sort of hopping along sort of animal. And there's definite changes or differences in the sort of mouth structure, or the teeth, if you were, and in the egg laying. But, you know, toads seem to be bigger. They've got much wartier sort of skin. You often find them away from water, whereas frogs, for the most part, are always found in and around water with very smooth-looking skin. The toads, obviously, with their sort of warty skin, is to adapt and to help them a little bit with water loss, help them in environments that aren't essentially always as wet as frogs would like them to be. Those are a few of the major differences. But both aquatic, both breeding in water, or amphibious, should I say, both of the order Anura. Morgan, I actually have no idea. I actually have no idea how long they can live for. I'll have to find that somewhere. You can hear Llewellyn's cuckoo in the background. Okay, we need to move as it's getting very, very hot. We're not as nicely sheltered as this frog is in the water, but we'll move on to the next watering hole from this one.
Because no one actually hears it. And I can't remember what I did in AdPods. I suspect that water holes, while they probably are fairly productive with smaller things, a lot of the animals don't really need to go to water holes at the moment. So I haven't spent too much time at water holes today, although we had a crazy sighting a little bit earlier of of the goshawk with those weavers. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's, at the end of the day, maybe for smaller stuff, water holes are a good option. For the bigger stuff, there's so much water around that the only thing that really needs to go to a big water hole is big herds of elephants. Everything else can find what they're looking for in the various riverbeds, drainage lines, flooded wallows, anything like that. At the end of the day, there's a lot of that all over the place at the moment, so it really does kind of work out in the animal's favor for not having to move around too much. But it'll dry out eventually, so animals will start to use the water holes more. Talking about water holes, I think I'm just going to quickly head towards Chitwa Dam. Just go and see if there's anything happening there. I haven't found anything for our cats on Chitwa, so I think it's time just to go and chill at Chitwa Dam for a little bit and take it easy and just see what comes our way for a change rather than searching. Sometimes it's good just to stop, take a little breath and just let things happen for you. If that's the case, then, you know, maybe we'll get lucky. And if we don't, we'll still have a beautiful afternoon. The weather this afternoon is as good as one could ever ask for. It's beautiful sunshine, warm. If you're in the shade, at least. If you're in the sun, not so much. Just make sure we don't have an accident as we come out here. This is the main road after all, and cars do come up and down here. Although it feels like a ghost reserve at the moment. There's literally no one else on Game Drive besides Steve and myself.
Back with us, everybody. We're still on the move. On our way to our next watering hole. Go over towards Treehouse Dam now. And then we go check the river, see how the river's looking, see if we can cross. How does that sound? We are not going to be stopping again in the sun for some time. This wind is delicious. It's just too hot to spend too much time parked. So if we find a nice shady spot with something, we'll most definitely pull over. But most of the animals are going to be hiding right now, like we are. Shady spot to shady spot. We just come around the other side of Treehouse. I didn't want to go over the dam wall. After extensive amounts of rain, we avoid driving on those sort of structures due to the fact that you don't know what the water's done underneath. Give it a few days to dry out. Even the birds are being shy. We can hear them calling. Lovely to find a bird party in the shade. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It's what you get this time of year there, everybody. Very warm. Beautiful and green though. But very warm. It's important to drink lots of water. No, James, I haven't heard of any otters. That would be quite something. I don't know if anyone's ever seen an otter here on Djuma. That would be quite something. They're very permanent water sort of animals. I'm just going to give you another view of Treehouse. The stream is flowing. Just off to the right here. This is with the overflow. This is a nice shady spot here with our impala that are still enjoying the dam wall for some reason. They're not too shy of the open, exposed area. Always a good time to get one's binoculars out and just scan the water's edge, see if there's maybe some hidden little bird. But so that's the overflow. It's lovely to see. So these overflows, these watering holes have been put and designed in the drainage depressions so as to catch the water. But obviously once it fills up, it overflows, and then that goes down the streams, as you saw me earlier sitting in a stream. And then everything goes downhill, as is gravity. And it'll all eventually end in the ocean where it came from, through the cyclone. Process that's been going on forever. Picking up sediment, depositing it. That's why on the beaches we find such sandy soil. It's essentially all the large particles that have eventually made it down to the oceans and then washed up along the shores. Keegan, I've heard some contrasting information and I still haven't managed to get the right answer. So I've heard 900 hectares and I've heard 1,200 hectares. I still don't know which is the right one. It's a very small property, but we managed to work it very, very well. And we see some incredible things on Djuma. Maybe Tristan knows the right answer for that. But I've heard two conflicting answers from the guides that I used to chat with around here, and I still haven't been given the correct one. So Maybe if one of you out there know the answers, send us through, #WildEarth. Still a big area, but it's not enormous. Open to all the other reserves, though, so animals can come and go. Yes, control. Bumbling around is important. This is something I like to do after all the rainy events, to have a look at how the water's moving, how the watering holes are responding. And in the process, we're often blessed with some animal sightings along the way. We've got a spurfowl coming down here. Natal spurfowl. Coming down for a drink. Are we ready? Many predatory birds would be out to get these fellows coming down to drink, so it's being very cautious. And of course, the woodland kingfisher, not to be left behind. Okay, so Horse Lover says 1200. And your source of information is Wikipedia. I was told at university to never ever use that as a resource because it is manipulatable. So we always had to find more reliable sources. Not saying Wikipedia is wrong, but every now and again people are able to go in and edit and change and falsify and mix and add, and some of that information is not always vetted. So I've heard 12. Oh, there we go. Having and a beak wash and a bum shake. But thank you for getting back to me on that, though. And plunging. That's how you bath when you're a kingfisher. Slatan, it is a beautiful light reflection. With a beautiful bird. Impalas have just bolted. Egyptian geese came out the water. Don't worry, you don't have to look. The impalas just bolted because a goose came out of the long grass. Now that's how skittish you are when you're in impala. Even a goose will get you moving. Okay, let's have a look at the spurfowl now. The boy is coming down to drink. He's taking his time. Oh, he wants to cross. His beautiful orange legs. Oh, and he's gone. Well, that was a bit of a letdown. He wet his feet and then bolted. And gone. How disappointing. He clearly didn't like this side of the pan, the dam. Don't worry, we've still got our kingfisher to go to. A perfect time of day for a bath when you're a kingfisher. The sun is still warm enough to dry him. Oh, how splendid. A breeding pair, of course. That's just such a nice shot. The other one's turned to bath now, perhaps. Thinking about it. Maybe he's got cold feet. There we go. I know my mum's watching. She used to spend all day watching the water before getting in. Took her forever to swim. I think she's gotten much better at it these days. Now she lives down at the coast. She gets very proud when she tells me that she's gone in and had a swim. I remember always jumping in the water first thing, and my mum spending the whole day sun tanning and not swimming because the water was too cold. This kingfisher didn't take too long. Well, we get about 7 here. The woodland, the striped, the grey-headed, the brown-hooded, the giant, the pied, the malachite, and the pygmy. So 8. I haven't seen the pygmy here. It has been recorded. The malachite I've seen at this dam itself. The pied I've seen at Vuitela Dam. The giant I've seen at Chitwa, as well as the pied. I haven't seen the giant on Djuma. Djuma doesn't have as much permanent water as you find on Chitwa, and the giant and the pied are very fish-eating kingfishers, whereas the others all seem to get by almost primarily on insects and frogs. And off she goes too. They have had a bit of a bath. They're going to go back off to the nest and just check on their chicks. And we're going to move on from our watering hole and go and check the next one. I think that's going to work. Let's do it. Off to Twin Dams we go. And I know the grey-crested cranes are very common in the Mara. I'm trying to think where in South Africa we see them. They're very sort of wetlandy, open wetland systems. I've never seen one in South Africa. I'll check for you where we find them. Water's just eating away at certain bits of the road. It's not a bird I've actually yet seen in South Africa, but obviously in the Mara they're quite abundant. They like those very inundated floodplains, which we don't really get too many of in South Africa. But they do occur down here. Just as soon as my app decides to switch on, I'll find it for you. It's having a slow day. Having a very slow day. I'll just put it down, it will sort itself out, and then it will talk to me. Technology, everybody. I do have a bird book, but my bird book is nowhere near as good as the app. But on days, sorry about that, the road is a little bit washed away here. Days like this, the book is quite handy when technology decides not to work. But definitely in the floodplains, more wetland areas of South Africa. And, well, eventually it'll sort itself out and I'll get back to you. But in the meantime, Tristan is at Chitwa. I don't know how he's getting along with his tracking. Maybe he's doing spotted birding.
Well, we're at Chitwa Dam doing birding, funny enough, and we've got another kill. It's not of the same magnitude, but interesting because I haven't seen a common sandpiper eating fish before. It's the first time I've ever seen one grabbing a fish and trying to eat it. And you can see it's carrying it around all over the place, and there's a green shank that's trying to steal it from it. Clever little sandpiper, got it down before the green shank arrived. There's a green shank on the right-hand side. Also probably scouting about for all kinds of food that they can potentially get in this overflow. A lot of them are hunting on the overflow itself because it's shallow enough that they can pick up these small fish as they wash over the little outflow. But these green shanks are also beautiful birds. That white stomach with that little up-curved beak and those slightly yellow-green legs. Very, very pretty birds, particularly in the afternoon light. It's one thing about Well, sorry about that, everybody. Sometimes out in the African bush, things can go a little bit wrong, and unfortunately, we lost you guys. But you're back with us. As you can see, we're still at Chitwa Dam. I don't know how much you got. This green shank is having an absolute whale of a time. It is hammering the fish in the corner. It's now onto its fourth one all of a sudden. It's found a little spot where all the fish are hiding, and is just pushing them down. Now watch it. It goes into the shallows. Now, as they're tumbling over that little waterfall. Oh, that one got away. No, it didn't get away. It lost one, but it's catching a lot of them as they're tumbling over the water onto this little shallow area. And so they can't actually hide from it very well. And it's finding all kinds of food. But it had 5 fish in a space of about 2 minutes there. Maybe it's feeling a little bit full. Very cool to watch. It's a bird hunting extravaganza this afternoon. Between goshawks and green shanks, everybody's having a little bit of a feed. I'm not sure how far I was when we were talking about things earlier, but I was just saying that Chitwa Dam at this time of the day is possibly one of my favorite spots to be in. There's always something to look for, and you always get cool things like this when it's full. You get crazy bird activity. I'm actually surprised there's no green-backed herons here doing exactly what this green shank is doing. The green-backed herons normally are all along the fringe of Chitwa Dam when it's like this, hunting all the various little fish that are hiding in the shadows. So I'm surprised we're not seeing more of them here. That little common sandpiper, though, is my favorite thing. Like I say, it's the first time I've ever seen a common sandpiper eat a fish. They normally just peck around for little insects on the edge of the water, but that little guy, the little greedy guts, and managed to grab a really good meal. And one day he's gone onto one leg now and is just taking it easy. Doesn't want to get too full. Actually, they're talking about greenback heron. There's one that's just flown across the dam. I want to see if it lands on the other side. Maybe we can get a view of it. Let's see, it's banking to land. It has landed. Let's go and see if we can get our greenback heron fishing. I love watching them. They remind me of like a little bird leopard in the way that they stalk around slow and methodically until they grab what they're looking for. Very surprised though that we haven't got any painted snipes yet. This is perfect conditions for them, and we do see painted snipes quite regularly in the summer months here. I also just had a chat to the owner of Chitwa, and I was asking him about the wood owl because his house is in the drainage line where the wood owl, I heard it, and he says he's been hearing it a lot, but he hasn't seen it yet. He says he keeps hearing it, but if he hears it again and he hears which tree it's coming from, he's going to let us know, and we can come and have a look, which is a cool thing. So hopefully that little owl shows itself, but he says he has been hearing it a lot in the last couple of weeks. So must be just in one of these big trees, sitting, taking it easy. Oh, there's our greenbacked heron. Oh no, don't fly, greenbacked heron. The greenbacked heron is flown away. Well, one off. Let's just see if there's not another one, because the other one that landed wasn't here, it was further ahead. Lots of picnics everywhere. Maybe that greenbacked heron flew when I wasn't watching and landed there. Because through the binos it landed somewhere here. It could have flown as we started. I was hoping it was going to be on this little stump hunting. They sometimes sit, there's a little stump in the water here that is very low to the water, and it's the perfect little hunting spot if you're a heron, because you can just sit on top there and skulk and wait, and as fish come to the structure, because as we know fish love structure, then they just kind of come onto this little fallen stump, and they can just shoot their head in from there. And there's a crocodile as well. Oh, that's good. At least we can find our crocs. It's been a long time since I've seen Vlad or Boris. I can't see which one it is. It looks like the bigger of the two. Maybe not, actually. Difficult to say if it is Vlad or Boris, one of the two of them. A lot of you won't know the crocodiles at Chitwa Dam, but it's Boris the Blade and Vlad the Impaler are the names of these two crocodiles. the ridiculous names, but that's what they've been given. I haven't actually seen them for a long time. With the dam being as full as it is, they often sit on the island where we saw that hippo sitting. Well, I think you saw the hippo sitting. I actually don't know if you did. Now I'll come to think of it. But there's a little island in the middle of Chitwa Dam, and the crocs often are up on that island. So you don't see them much when it's flooded. When it's a little bit drier, you can drive closer to the island, and then you can find where the island is. So that's the island there. They sit on that little bank often, particularly on the right side of the island is where they like to kind of go up. It's quite flooded though. So that's their kind of favorite little spot. In fact, there might actually be one of them that side. But then what happens is that as they go about their kind of day, and when it floods up, they often come this side, and there's a very good reason for coming this side. You see the way that the bank kind of forms these little sort of rounded sections. Cove is probably a good way to put it. They use their body and they push up against the side of the bank, and as they do that, because this is all full of grasses and is flooded, the water's not normally this high, it pushes all these fish up into the corners, and then the fish can't go anywhere, and then these guys just grab them from there. So they actually eat more fish than anything else, even though they are quite big crocodiles. The one is a good 4-meter crocodile. He's able to survive mostly your fish in this particular dam. Very seldom do we see them on big carcasses here. Every now and then they'll get an impala that the dogs chase in here, or they'll grab a nyala that's come to drink if it's the dry season. But for the most part, it's fish that they survive on. And their technique to hunt them was one of the most fascinating things to watch. Unfortunately, they don't do it a lot where we can see. The place that they do it the most is right in front of the swimming pool at the camp. There's a perfect little bay that is just the right width that the croc's body is perfectly suited, that the fish can't get out at all. And they absolutely hammer them there. I remember every afternoon tea time, these crocs would do it. They would kind of come up towards there, and then they'd grab themselves 2 or 3 normally bream or the odd catfish, and then from there they would kind of move off. It's going to be interesting too if they breed this year. These crocs have bred before, and we have had little baby crocs, and given how full the dam is, it actually would be a good year for them to breed again, because there's lots of little hiding places for these little crocodiles. They don't have to be pushed into the main part of the dam where the big catfish are, that they can get eaten.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we are down at the Moati, and the river broke its banks this side. This is that road, Mamba, that goes to the west, sorry, to the east, and you can see it flowing beautifully in front of us here. We're not going to cross it today. We're going to stay on that side of the river. Just going to get our feet. So, talk about sediment. See, the lighter stuff is in here. So you get the 2 types. You get the very gravelly and a much lighter sediment that gets deposited. So silt, the softer stuff like this one, gets washed out of that, and it gets deposited as the water levels subside. But when the water is very strong, it pushes the heavy stuff down, and this granite, this grainy stuff will eventually get on the beach, and this very soft stuff will get sort of deposited in the oceans and sort of so nutrient upwelling, full of nutrients, full of clay, full of minerals from a similar sort of source. But none of this occurred here. This all occurred very far away, and slowly but surely it's moved its way downstream. Magnificent, isn't it? There we go. I've just caused a bit of erosion. You won't find any lion tracks or leopard tracks here. They come to something like this and they go, "Don't know if I want to cross." Isn't this splendid? So I know Jamie, who was working here before when this flowed last time, she was out about in it. And you've got to, everybody. This is part and parcel of what we do. Exploring Mother Nature in its purest. And the water was quite high up, flowing all the way down. We got some footage or images of it down at the bottom there, where it crosses Gary Main, being pretty high, so there would be no access for the car. So we're going to leave it today. We're not going to access. I think we're going to go back towards the lions. How does that sound? It's getting to that about time of day that the lions are going to be getting up and mobile, so I think we'll go see if we can follow up on them. And I'll just reverse out of here. Feeling so much cooler now.
Right, so we have got a greenback tern here. It did land in this area. I wasn't making up things, although I think this is actually one that arrived since we've been sitting here. It just kind of flew into this tree, but we had another one across the bank, so there's actually quite a few of them that are around, but none of them are fishing. They're all just perched at the moment. I think it's that time of the day where it's not fishing time, it's maybe breeding time. So these two are chasing each other around. See, that one overshot the mark, so that's not going to be ideal. Not ideal when you overshoot where you're trying to go if you're chasing another one. Did it land on the bank or did it land? I think it landed on the bank. Other than that, there's not really much else. I've kind of been scouting about with binos, just trying to check. Often you get things like pied kingfishers hanging around, but there's none of them today. It seems all quite quiet. There's no guinea fowls alarm calling, even though I suspect that if it was a leopard in the lodge yesterday, which I'm almost sure it was, that it probably still is in there. I doubt it would have been coming out yet. Johnny, they make small little nests in trees. So often find these nesting birds just behind the dam wall here in this little secretive drainage line. There's nice little thick areas where they can build these little nests where it's quite well camouflaged and quite well hidden in thick undergrowth, and then from there it's a short flight over the dam wall, and then they can start to kind of scout around for food. They don't like to have their nests out in the open, as you can see what happened with those weaver nests. Any nest that's very visible is going to make it open to being hunted and potentially damaged. All right, let's turn around and just head slowly back up out of Chitwa. We've tried our luck. Unfortunately, lions went off. No tracks for Sabui's youngsters, no tracks for Kachavan Cub, and no tracks for Tanyan Cub. So just quiet on this front today. But like I said, it's not to say that they aren't around. I wouldn't be surprised Tandy's little one is inside Chitwa with no guests in the camp. And only a handful of staff because of the cyclone. I think they only have, the guys told me, only about 6 staff members on site. I don't think that anybody is going to disturb those leopards in there, so it's the perfect place to hide out. It's dry. You can sit by the lounger, hang out by the pool. So Tandy's cub is already used to the life of opulence. James, you're saying some really nice birds today. Indeed, some very, very nice birds. Not just nice birds, but really nice bird interaction today. Often we see birds and they just sit or they fly away. But today we've had great birds from behavioral aspects. I mean, we've seen the common sandpiper fishing, we've seen a greenshank fishing, we've had the goshawk raiding the weaver's nest, weaver's building. It's been a lot of really cool birding. The greenback teron's always nice, but we'll just check with the greenback terons. I'm sure they're going to fish at some point. If we're just patient, I want to just check. They flew towards the overflow, so maybe they are there now. If they are, I'll go slowly and we'll just stop and watch them for a little bit. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to hear the wood owl while I'm sitting here, and maybe we can have a sneaky little check for the wood owl. Maybe it's kind of lurking in one of these big trees to my left. I think it's just here. If you go down behind the dam wall, there's like a little place where we have the night herons where they nest. I'm pretty sure the night herons will also be there at the moment, but it's a little bit wet down there at the moment. So we'll go and check it at some point, and hopefully we can get night heron and the wood owl. We just need to hear it. If I can hear it again, it caught me off guard the other day, so I didn't pick up exactly where it was, and I just heard it, and I was like, oh wait, hang on a second, that's a wood owl. It's not something we hear a lot of here. I just know the sound because it reminds me of my grandparents. They had a house close to the escarpment at one point, and we used to hear them from there, and it's kind of a fond memory of my childhood days and where my interest in nature started. So when I hear that owl, it always makes me very, very happy. And like I said, it just caught me off guard. Ooh, have a look at that moon. Wow. Tomorrow night at this dam is going to be beautiful because that moon will come up at sunset. It's already up now, and it's big in the sky, but tomorrow it should come up just over the dam and should catch the light and be a lot more orange than what it is right now, and should be really big and beautiful tomorrow evening. So tomorrow evening this time, if we don't have clouds, this will be a great place to stop. Can't wait for the day where cameras can kind of capture the same depth that what our eyes capture. I mean, cameras are good, but they haven't quite gotten to the dynamic range that we have in our eyes, and to kind of the whole scene that we have here between the sort of moon that's up there and the sunlight and the water and the depth that this whole area shows. Very, very special. I'm just scanning about a little bit. I'm going to let you guys listen to the sounds while I do so. So Daniel, it is fantastic, isn't it? It's kind of place where you can just sit and relax. And I remember when we used to work at Chitwa, how many of the guides used to come here just to have their evening drink stop. So they would just kind of set up here on the dam wall and have a little sundowner and let the guests watch the hippos go by while they have their apple juices or their whatever it is that they want. And it was really a very kind of cool thing to see how many guides actually appreciated this little spot. Of course, when you're at Chitwa, you don't really stop here because the guests that you have see this all day long. So they're not interested, well, not as interested in sitting. Although I have a thing for it at this time of the day. Like I say, it's always much prettier at this time of the day. A lot of the guests only ever see it during the middle of the day because they're out on their game drives in the morning and the afternoon. But actually, the best time to be at Chitwa Dam is now and first thing in the morning. In winter, sometimes you get the most ridiculous sunrises here because the sun rises pretty much where the moon is now in the same line. So it comes up over the dam pretty much there. And you can get this whole dam covered in this thick blanket of mist. And then the sun comes up over the mist and all the mist turns this beautiful kind of golden, yellow, orange color over the water. And then you have the sounds of the hippos. It's freezing cold, but exceedingly beautiful. Might actually get it now late summer as well. If we get a bit of change in temperature, we might see a bit of mist before it gets very, very cold. But we would have to be here first thing in the morning, and it's not always possible because of the fact that guests are in the camp. But nowadays it's quite quiet, so maybe there's an opportunity at some point to get there's a porpoising hippo all the way on the other end. So graceful. Why they do it, I have no idea. Sometimes you just find hippos, they're just like, well, I'm going to porpoise, I'm going to jump and splash and make as much noise as I can and make everything look good. It's gone under though, you can just see the ripples of where the splash was. Alright, I think we're going to leave Chitwa. We're going to probably slowly head along sort of Cheetah Cut Line area, just scratch around, see what there is. I've had a thoroughly good afternoon, so I'm not too worried if we don't find much more. And in the meantime, though, let's send you across to Steve, who's with some Eddies.
We've had a splendid afternoon. We found our little elephant family. Okay, let me just move forward a smidge. Now, she just walked right past us, again, with her baby, 2 babies. Was not concerned at all. So they learn from their mother that we're not a big concern. She walked right past the car, so she's obviously very habituated to vehicles. And because her behavior was one of cool, calm, and casual, the youngsters learned very quickly as well that we are very cool. Hey, Paul, we are very cool, aren't we? The only uncool thing is that I got back in the car with feet full of sand. That's the most uncool thing I did. At least last time I rinsed them before getting in the car. These are problems that we develop in our lives. Sandy feet. So little family units, although they will occur in breeding herds, they don't necessarily always hang out in the large groups. They will divide up from time to time. Timber, the tusks are growing from early, but you won't see them just yet. After they stop suckling, the tusks will start to emerge. You see the baby suckles from mum with her mouth, or its mouth, and the tusks will just get in the way. So while it's suckling, it goes through that early stage. There's another youngster, much bigger tusks. I'm about to see it. There it is. And so you won't necessarily see them for the first 2 years. And then after that, they start to develop and start to emerge from the skull. Before that, they would just be a hindrance because they would just be in the way when they're trying to suckle. And they're not using them anyway. They are very slow growing, the ivory tusks, and they're constantly growing through the life of an elephant. For example, the youngster that's at the back there, her other individual baby, is probably 3 or so, probably 3.5, and it didn't have tusks. So genetically, you get different rates of growth as well on the tusks. So it's not everyone's the same. Everyone's got different sort of developmental stages. But our elephants are all disappearing. We're going to see if we can race across towards where we left the lions this morning. So I think it's going to start getting to that time. They're going to wake up. They were hidden. We left them hiding in the thickets. So there wasn't going to be much excitement there, considering the amounts of shade hiding and bouncing around we've done between the shade bits. But if you're looking for elephants at the moment, this open area is the place to be. This is my favorite time of day. Well, 2 different times of day in the summer months, the early morning before it gets hot, and this sort of time of the afternoon when the light is still good. It's cooled down enormously. It was a stick. The moon is going to be beautiful tomorrow. I could feel it already last night. I had some trouble sleeping. Definitely does affect my moods when it comes to sleep patterns. You also wake up in the middle of the night and it's like bright outside. It's such a weird feeling because you feel like you've overslept. You feel like the sun's coming up and you're late for work. It's quickly check the clock. You're like, oh, it's fine. We've got plenty of time. It's only 11:30. It's such a nice feeling. I go to bed at about 10. And I wake up sometimes at about 11:15, 11:15. It's been happening last 3 nights in a row. I've woken up at 10:36, 3 times in a row. I don't know what's going on with 10:36. And I feel like I've slept for hours. Check the clock, 10:36. Great feeling. You know you've got plenty of time still to sleep. You go and have some ablutions, have a glass of water, find a nice cuddly spot in the bed where the fan just hits you perfectly, hey, Paul? You know what I mean, eh? On we go to the north and west along the Whirlygig axis. This is where we had the lions all morning playing and playing and playing. If you didn't see this morning's show, we had some splendid activity with lions. We spent the whole morning with them. But while we make our way to the Talamati Pride, let's send you back on down over to Chitwa with Tristan and see if he's found any more special birds. I think I just got a message now saying that those lions are not where Steve left them, but they are moving towards
the boundary at a rate of knots. Apparently they're up here at the gate already. Anyway, we're back at the little overflow. There was a green bacterium that landed briefly and then went, but it looks like it might be coming back. Here we go, here it comes. Come on, land here and come do some hunting. It's just landed in that thicket there. They like to hunt in these areas. If we just sit here for a while, it will eventually make its way into this little flooded section. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, which is, I mean, I didn't understand that particular saying, because shooting fish in barrels can't be very easy, but it's much easier for them to catch them here than anywhere else, and so I'm not surprised that you're getting a congregation of birds at this little overflow. Let's see if it comes and lands. It's flowing further down that way. Come on, green bacterium, we're not going to do anything. You can land where we are. Beautiful orange legs, and you can see that sort of faded green back, which is where the name comes from. The other name for this is a striated heron, quite common in the States as well. You see them up in North America too. Come, buddy. So when those legs go very red like that, that's in their breeding colors. They get a change in leg color. Legs can be a little bit lighter than that outside of breeding season. I think he's just working out whether or not we're anything to worry about before he comes flying in again and landing at this little overflow. I try to give it as much room as I can for him to come and not worry about us. They are a lot more shy than the green shanks and the little sandpipers. They tend to be a lot more on the kind of on the side of safety than what the other birds do. So eventually, hopefully they'll kind of come out. I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer. I do have a flat tire which I'll need to change before it gets dark, but I'll wait a little bit to see if this heron comes out. In the meantime, though, it sounds like Steve's got a beautiful view of the sunset.
Well, I'm terribly sorry to hear you have a flat tire, Tristan. I've called you out twice in the last week, so if you need assistance, please give me a call, but I'm sure a flat tire is easily solved. Everybody, the lions are crossing to the north, so I don't know if we're going to be able to catch up with them, but we have got a sunset for you. So as always, as is always the protocol, I'm going to allow all of you to sit very quietly and just enjoy this beautiful view in silence. says magical. Megan. Or did Megan say magical? I'd like to let those comments sit for a moment. The beauty of these scenes. Megan said absolutely gorgeous. I can't disagree. That is the escarpment in the distance with the cloud build up. Beautiful orange glow. Can you believe, everybody, the first month of the year is already nearly over? It's okay. It's been an interesting one. If you haven't achieved what you thought you would, it's okay. Let's look forward to the next month, which will be a very interesting one as well, with the full moon tomorrow. Many of us set intentions at the last new moon. Look forward now to the new full moon tomorrow, and how many of those intentions have come to light. How many things have you put forward? Are you still feeling a bit changes? Have you planted some seeds that you're waiting to grow? It's been a very interesting start to the year. And it's okay if you haven't achieved what you thought you would. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Amazing the power of the mind. I was thinking of a friend today. Someone I actually attended a meditation course with by the name of Gary, and he messaged me just now because of my reference to meditation just now. It's amazing how you can telepathically communicate with people from a distance. How you think about someone and they give you a call. I found those things fantastically beautiful. Yes, it is a great time for meditative sessions. You've caught on to what it is I do in these silent moments, haven't you? We're all busy working at this time, but it's nice to take a few minutes out of one's work period to just collectively regather your thoughts. Consciously aware of what you're doing. Not abstractly scrolling through some strange news feed that really doesn't impact your day. Breathing and bringing one to the present moment is very powerful. Very, very powerful. Amazing the answers to questions that you might have come to you in those moments. I always have a pen and paper handy. Enlightening thoughts arrive when my mind is still. It's not cluttered and busy with all sorts of other nonsense. The world at the moment and all the things we have around us are designed to just distract us and take our mind away from being present. Leslie Ang, there's a bird called the bat hawk. That is a very, very sort of dusk hunter. When the bats start to emerge out of their caves or wherever it is that they might be roosting, just as the light starts to fade in areas where bats occur, you'll have the bat hawk materializing. So that is a very specific hunter that specifies at that time of day. But we term many species crepuscular, those that are active at dusk and at dawn. But I can't think of another that's specifically active at just this period. The bathawk's a very good example. If you have any more comments or one-word tweets, please send them through to #WildEarth, as well as your screenshots. Love to see them. Love to share these moments with you. Some of the most profound moments on Game Drive that I've had with guests are quiet moments, watching the sunset. And once again, coming back to some guiding ethics, you can facilitate that. You can sit them apart individually. You sit there, because people are prone to needing to chat, to fill the silence with their voice and with whatever story that might be coming up. But I've on many occasions forced people to sit apart, not in a rude way, just why don't you just sit there and just enjoy. It's amazing how profoundly satisfying it can be for people. You don't have to know how to meditate to enjoy a sunset. Just to breathe and focus on the colors and the sounds, the smells and the feelings you're generating within. That's meditation right there. Try not to go off on tangents in your mind. When you're sitting looking at a beautiful view, are you thinking about something else? Are you going off about your car payments? Or you shouldn't be. These beautiful moments have a very profound ability to ground a person, to bring you into the present moment. Soothing, Hillary. Dan relaxing and Hillary soothing, indeed. Yeah, those are beautiful, beautiful comments. And Paul, what have you got to say? He's a man of very few words these days. Refreshing, that's a good one. Refreshing is a really good one. After a day like today, it's been quite warm. I went for my first run after the rains. It was humid. It was hard. But I survived. Okay, so the lions were right at the gate, the last I heard. And they were going to cross, and considering Tristan was off for a little while with his wheel, you only have me, I figured it would be better to just stay with this view for a little while longer until we hear something else. As it slowly fades. Sure, I managed to get a couple of very nice shots there. Okay, well, I hear a vehicle coming. Michelle is, Okay, so Tristan was my phone a friend. And he reckons that the African bullfrog can live for about 7 years or so. But that's in captivity. So Michelle, the lodge manager's on his way. He'll be able to tell me now where the lions are. He has sent me a voice note, but I'm not going to turn it on. Otherwise you're going to hear it. What did we do before voice notes, everybody? I'm guessing that they're gone though if Michelle's on his way back. Beautiful. Okay, well, we're going to move on. We'll have a quick chat to Michelle, if you won't mind me just having a quick word with him. as we drive past, find out what the lions have done. And off to the side there. Good evening, have they crossed?
Yeah, no,
Tristan's down with a flat wheel. I'm the only one live, so. Are they there? Thank you so much. So, there's our famous, one of our maintenance guys, Isaac, who sorts us out all the time whenever we have failure with our hot water. We have these these gas geysers, which require a little bit of understanding on how to get them operating, especially after the downpour we experienced. I think both Tristan and I, we share a geyser, so the gas geyser normally works quite well, but after rain, you just know it's going to not work very well, and the rain just kept going, and after 2 days, eventually we were like, can you fix our hot water? We're getting cold. And he fixed it just like that, so we probably should have asked earlier. Okay, so the lions were left here this morning. They walked up towards the gate. They're apparently right there at the gate, and I hope we get signal to be able to show you. Otherwise, we're going to have to move out of the area. Excited about the lions, are we? We never speed in the bush, regardless of how excited you get. Another guiding etiquette, potential dangers. End of the day, I guess you're going to see an animal or they're not. You driving faster is not going to improve the situation. Firstly, you could injure somebody. You could hurt the car, or you could hurt an animal. So don't ever exceed the speed limit, which in these is all the tracks in the road, lion tracks heading that way. Quite fresh, looks like sometime after 3 o'clock this afternoon. My expert opinion. Okay, so now we got to track them, because Michelle gave me an idea of where they are. I'm probably just going to go straight to where I think they are, but they could have moved. They're right at the gate. Probably there might be other vehicles there. We have no game drive radios at the moment, everybody. We had lightning that hit the repeater, and the tech guys from outside are having to try and fix that. Okay, there goes the track straight down the old driveway. They're probably looking towards Simbambili. Maybe they're looking towards Manyeleti. Hard to say. Very good. It sounds like Tristan has sorted out his tyre. Let's go over to him to see how dirty his hands got.
Well, at least Steve has managed to hold down the fort, and hopefully he'll get his lions the reward while we were changing a tyre. All sorted now though, but it's nice and easy. I appreciate Steve wanting to help, but changing a tyre is something we don't really need all that much help with. It's not exactly rocket science to change a tyre on one of these cars. And luckily with Theo's help, it was not too long a process to get it done and sorted. So all good. So we're on our way again. Let's see what we can find. Hopefully we'll bump into something on the way. It's very humid this evening, with no cloud cover and the sun like we had it. It seems like the air is closer than normal. Changing that tyre was hot work in many respects. Luckily it wasn't in the sun. That wouldn't have been very pleasant at all. Imagine having to change that in this afternoon sun. It wouldn't have been very pleasant. Come on, little guys. Herd mentality. One goes. Look at the jumps. males, like I'm not jumping for anyone. You can all... Skinny fowl alarm calling up here. Let's quickly have a look at what's causing that. Sounds like it's on Gari Main somewhere. Could be that they're just calling this time of the day because it's, end of the day, but it's a little bit late in the season for them to be breeding. Although I suppose with this rain it might have triggered another round of breeding. It's in the season for them to be breeding. Although I suppose with this rain it might have triggered another round of breeding. Let's quickly go look though, just to make sure. If we find them in the trees, then we know that something has disturbed them. Somewhere here. Ahead. There's impalas, they're nervous. Guinea fowls in the tree there. They're just in the tree on my right-hand side. There's two impalas back there that are very, very nervy. They would have heard this too, and that's why. All right, I'm going to have a quick look around just to see. Obviously, I can't off-road here, so it's going to be difficult if it's in the grass. But let's see what we can come up with. In the meantime, I think Steve has got his line, so let's quickly send you across to him.
Well, excuse me, you caught me in the middle of having a sip of water there. But we've managed to track them down, everybody. They are very close to the gate. They are staring at the gate guards, who are all now inside the gatehouse building. The staff compound is right here, so we're right at the gate. And these lions are clearly interested in the movements and what's going on. We've also switched over to the infrared spectrum. So we're basically on the Simbambili cut line, fire break with Simbambili. So where are they going to go? Are they going to go down into Simbambili, or are they going to go up into Buffelshoek Manileti? It's anybody's guess. That is a boy. I know some of you were probably a little bit concerned last night with the lions attacking the water pipe. Now, the water pipe is just a little plastic pipe that feeds water from the borehole to the watering hole. And they damaged that. And I don't know what happened to one of them, but one of them obviously caught a sharp bit or something. And it just pecked at his lip. I mean, he had a bit of a bleeding lip, but there's absolutely nothing to be done about it. These lions get all sorts of injuries, and a little bit of an injury on the lip, you wouldn't even tell. I couldn't even tell if it's this fellow or the other brother. But there's no concern. A little plastic water pipe. Okay, we're going to stay with these lions, and let's guess, are they going to go north, south, or west?
think they're roosting here, but the amount of an Ellie that's alarm call, well, an Ellie that's screaming. I wonder if it wasn't, it decreased very quickly when we got here. So maybe there was something here and it's just disappeared in the grass. It's very, very possible. Or it could be, at this time of the year, sometimes when they land like this, they announce themselves and make a lot of noise. But that just seemed a bit too heavy and too much from them. They've settled right down now. They're not making nearly as much noise. But sometimes that's what it's about. It's just near misses and right place, right time. You can be 20 seconds off and miss it. Whatever it was that caused this disturbance, or like I say, you could be on the money and you come around the corner and the animal's on the road. So we'll just stay here for a little bit longer. Let's just see, maybe we find something if we wait and be patient. Welcome back to Boundary with Simbili. The lions seem to be slowly, one by one, getting up and moving. Not this fellow, he'll be one of the last. Beach buddy kitties. Now, we would have come earlier, but it was so hot. We didn't explore. He goes and breaks what I said. He's going the wrong way. Of course he is. Kitties, kitties, kitties. So we're right here at the staff, just outside the staff village. It's here at the gate. So living out here in the wild animals are a reality. We have animals coming through our camp quite regularly. Their staff village seems to be nicely well fenced. Okay, well, we've got a few more on the right, but they're hanging around the earth-moving equipment. These are the tires that get dragged to maintain the road. The lions are very interested in the road maintenance gear today. Like, oh, that's how you grade the roads. The heavy tires help to sort of disturb the hard ground. It makes it much easier for identifying tracks, and also assists in sort of small little revuels when you get two-wheel drive cars driving along and get that corrugation. The tires help to eliminate that to a degree. And this one's like, really? The tire? Can I bite it? Well, you can. You're not going to solve any of the problems in the world by doing so, young lioness. Is it a tortoise? They said they don't cross the gate. I don't think they've ever crossed the gate. I mean, there's a fence that keeps the Sabi sands out from the outer sides of the park, yeah, and the gate, the fence is designed to keep most animals in. But lions, if they want to get through a fence, they can. But invariably they don't. Invariably they stay inside. The fence is electrified. It's to keep the wildlife from going out into the communities and wreaking havoc with the cattle and the maize fields when it comes to elephants. Game fences are high to keep game in and electrified at many different points. And there's 10,000 volts. It's not an electrocution, it's a pulse. So if an animal touches the fence, it pushes them back. It doesn't fry them like you would think of an electric current. Okay, so they've decided they're going to go left. Didn't like that side. Where are you going to go now? They're all interested in the earth-moving equipment now. It's so fascinating
It's like young boys when they come across anything mechanical. They have to check it out. The nature of this industry, Jerome, we learn to approach lions on foot, to track them and find them. And many times in my career, I've had lions make lots of noises and move towards me at quite a bit of speed. So I'd say each time that's happened, that's rather scary. There's something quite primordial about a lion on foot, the noise it makes and the feelings that go through your body. It's a feeling that's very difficult to describe. Very difficult to describe. But you learn very early on in the guiding industry that you never run. You always stand your ground, and if need be, you move backwards by facing the animal. So apparently a pretty busy video that went around of me with lions on foot a little while ago, where a few people were concerned for my safety. But we do bump into lions. We do bump into them quite often. Leopards as well. And they are actually, in general, afraid of us on foot. At night time, it's a different story. There's a whole different kettle of fish that happens at night when it comes to predators. They have a different confidence level. They have a different sort of behavior. But in the daytime, for the most part, big cats are generally quite sort of shy and skittish when it comes to being found on foot, and they generally move away. That's the first port of call. The second port of call is that they might make a noise. And the third is that they might physically charge. And that is the last resort that they will do. And that's often if they are really afraid, or if they have cubs, or if they have some need of defense required. And that charge that takes place is earth-shattering. And your whole body shakes and your legs go leaden to the ground. And, I've had a number of those in my life. It's been a while since I've had a lion charge. But even just hearing a lion on foot, even a leopard on foot, because they will warn you before charge. There'll always be this loud growl long before the charge happens. And in that situation, that video of mine, they didn't even make a noise. They just moved off. So it was the early stages. But the most important thing is that you never turn your back and run. So it's a very easy point to get across to people. I think I was telling Paul this morning, if you turn and run from a big cat in the wild, you will die. So it's a very simple point to put across. Don't do that, and you should be okay. You should be fine. Do what we say. Like when we're doing training, in big cats and big game, we walked into these sightings deliberately by mentors to see how you're going to react, and your mentor's always standing right behind you. And if he feels you're going to turn and run, he just grabs your shoulder and he just makes you stand right there. He might even shout at you in your ear. Thankfully, I've never had to have that happen, but I've had to help students in the past. Because if they do turn, the lion's behavior becomes one of I must chase and catch. But by standing your ground and standing tall and making a bit of a noise, the animal generally always backs down. It can take a bit of time to get out of that situation. I remember Steph, who operations manager here, a very experienced guy, telling me a story of a lion charge he had up in the northern Kruger, or in the where we used to work many years ago, and it took him about an hour to get out because the lion just kept coming. Each time the lion stopped to turn around, he took half a step back, and the lion would come again, and it would come again. It just kept happening and happening, but you just keep following the same protocol. You don't turn, you stand your ground, you shout at it if need be, you make a loud noise, and then eventually you're far enough away that the animal doesn't feel the need to react anymore. And I know Tristan has had many lions and leopards on foot as well. And, well, we're going to send you back over to him. Wonder if he is in the mood for sharing.
Yeah, Steve, I've seen quite a lot. I mean, we're fortunate here in the sands that a lot of the lions and leopards have been tracked fairly regularly, and so their mood is generally far more tolerant of our presence than in places where you trail, like up in the northern parts of Kruger, where those lions are not as used to people, and the people that they do come across for a lot of the time are not people that they want to be near, because they can find poachers and all kinds of things right up on those boundaries there. And so they generally are a little bit more skittish and more aggressive in their response. Here, you know, a lot of the cats have become fairly used to us. It's not to say that we haven't had the incident where, you know, a lion or a leopard is charged, but, you know, I find that with them, while they do it every now and then, it's not something that I'm fearful of. You know, unless it's tracking with cubs, then you've got to really keep your wits about you. More kind of so because of the cubs than anything else. But, you know, I think the thing is there's also sensible walking, and then there's walking or tracking that's not sensible. So if you have tracks that go into a place where you can't see nicely, and you won't be able to see nicely if you're going to come across, then you're in the wrong place. You shouldn't be doing it there. You should be looping around and checking. If the tracks don't come out of that area, then take a car, go in and check, because they obviously are in that thicket. So it's also about being sensible in many respects to it. So yeah, you know, when it does go a bit pear-shaped, it can be a bit nerve-wracking and can certainly test one's steel, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But luckily, no real incidents of late, which has been nice. I haven't really had anything to worry about in the last few years, which has been good. I, funny enough, have a lot more nervousness around buffalo, you know, elephants, black rhinos, those three. I'm a lot more aware of what they're up to than the cats. The cats, for the most part, unless you're really pushing them, you can normally get yourself out of it, and you don't have to worry as much. But you know, the other three, on a dime, things can go completely pear-shaped and seemingly out of nowhere. So those three animals I'm always much more cautious of and much more wary of when on foot. Even when tracking big cats, when you see something like a buffalo track cross the cat's tracks or something like that, you start to pay attention a lot more, and you feel kind of a lump in your throat a little bit if the track is very, very fresh. I remember I once had a bushwalk where we were walking, and I was with guests, and we were kind of going along, and we were walking on the fringe of a very big open clearing. And as we kind of broke the clearing, out of the other side of the sort of clearing came these buffalo just running, and the entire Southern Pride was chasing it. So there was 21 lions at the time, and a herd of buffalo bulls, and there was lions on the back of buffalo all running straight in our direction. Now in that situation, it's probably the most scared I've ever been on foot. That and when Karula decided she wasn't exactly happy with me, but those buffalo and lions, they could have gone anywhere. There was really not a lot of cover for us. Luckily, because of the fact that there was lions on the back on buffalo, and the rest of the pride kind of came past, that actually turned the buffalo away from us, and the rest of the buffalo kind of moved, but we didn't have to worry. There's a hyena bottom in the road. Let's go and have a look at that. We're not far from the den. The den is just up above us here. But the road there is still very wet, so maybe tomorrow morning. But I expect probably only the following day that we'll be able to get to the den. I can't see who it is just yet. There's just a bum trotting down the road and a little blacktail. Might just get its view now of it. Let's get a pair of binos out and see if we can see who this is. It's still light enough for binos. Oh, I can't see the spot marks at all. ID that from the distance that we're at the moment. Let's try catch up with it quickly. I'm sure it's come from the den and is moving towards quarantine. I heard one calling just now from up near the den as we were driving. So I'm sure there is more around. But yeah, back to the buffalo story. So luckily the buffalo turned, but they managed to kill the buffalo in front of us, which was pretty crazy to be on foot with that. We didn't stick around though. As soon as we saw them kind of pull the buffalo down and the other buffalo turn, we were out of there pretty quickly, because you never know. Those buffalo deferred aggression, those kinds of things. We managed to kind of get ourselves out of too much trouble. And it was in weather just like this. Long grass, very wet, which is why we were walking the clearing more than the thickets. And so, you know, going back through the thickets was not that much fun. It's the only time I've been properly nervous. And you know, you've got guests with you as well, so it's their lives, not only yours, that's at stake. I find when I'm tracking here, I'm a lot more at ease. I trust my own judgment and trust my ability to get myself out of it. But when you've got somebody else's lives at stake, then you've got to be a lot more careful, a lot more wary of what you're doing. You also don't know how people will react. You know, sometimes if you have a negative response from an animal and somebody runs, as Steve was saying, or somebody does something silly, it can get you into a lot of trouble. I also almost got flattened by a rhino because I had told a guest to stay still and not to take photos and just stay behind this log, because this rhino bull was walking straight at us. And as the bull came to the closest point, which at that was about 15 meters, because it was the only tree that we could get behind, again in the same clearing, funny enough, in a very similar spot, and the guest then stood up and started taking photos and sent that white rhino bull into an absolute tiz, which led to multiple kind of trottings at us and huffing and puffing and lots of dust, and just generally a very uncomfortable experience in many ways. Okay, Hyena, just stop there for a second so you can see. No, this hyena is not stopping. He's on his little pathway. So where we are now is where we had all those alarm calls this morning and leopard tracks. It's disappeared behind that bush, unfortunately. We're not going to see any sign of it coming out. There's a big 2-track that runs there all the way up to the bush pry. So I think that hyena, unfortunately, is not going to stay where it is, or where we can see it. Sorry, guys. So yeah, the rhino was also a horrible one, because the last animal out here that you want to have any negative impact on is a rhino. I mean, you don't want to have to use your firearm with any animal, but a rhino particularly, they're under so much pressure as it is. Let's try and kind of keep them as safe as possible, even when out on foot.
Back, everybody. Just trying to get a handle on what these lions want to do. We're right at the staff quarters now, and we get these on the left here. Looks like they might walk down towards Simbambili watering hole if they go down here. Possible. A little bit of contact calling. A territorial boundary marking. Some of them are scratching the feet on the floor, doing some urine spraying. There's the old girl. See the one eye not reflecting as well.
Well, perseverance pays off because eventually you get what you're looking for. As you can see, a little Kalamba bottom that is moving down the road. So a last-minute leopard for us. It's exactly where we had those Franklins alarming, where the hyena was walking to. She just popped out in the road in front of us. So it's the same cat we were tracking this morning. We were on the money for most of the morning. We just obviously kind of were driving around her and managed to miss. I think it's Kalamba. I mean, I've just seen her tail come out of the bush, but it looks like her. Let's just stop here. It's difficult from just a tail point of view, but I'm hoping it's her. Kalamba, look this side. Is it Kalamba or is it Tandi? It looks like Kalamba. Try see if we can get a better view of her now, but I'm so excited. We have literally all day long been driving around. I checked here this afternoon again, just in the hope that maybe, just maybe, she was here. While she's just predisposed, I'm going to quickly just get forward so I can see her face better. I don't want to go off road, but I'm just going to try, while she's going to the toilet, there we go, try and see who this actually is. You can see lots and lots of insects as well. Whoever it is has had a decent meal over the course of this rainy period, because that's a very big poo that's on the road. Come on, turn your head. She's not done either. Sure. I'm so excited that we managed to find her. That's so cool. Like I said, it's been a long day of looking, and it can be frustrating sometimes when you know that there's a cat right there, but there's nothing that you can do. Our instinct this morning was absolutely spot on, that there was a leopard where those Franklins were alarm calling, because where she came out of the bush is not even 50 meters from those Franklins alarm calling. So she was right there. It seems like she might be stalking something or saw something. Maybe that hyena popped out in front, because the hyena would have popped out right where we are now. Let me just go down so we can carry on following her. Just avoid the landmine on our way down. It's a sight for sore eyes in many ways. Lots of scent marking as well. All right, well, it is that time for us to say goodbye to all of you. Hopefully you've had a wonderful afternoon with us. You enjoyed the lions, a brief visual of a leopard and all the other things that came in between. It was a fantastic afternoon and beautiful weather. We'll see you all tomorrow morning for our sunrise safari.